Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales. Chapter 4309. After entering the frigid pond, Kong Xinmu roughly understood what was going on at the bottom of the frigid pond. Many demonic beasts were already corpses, killed by the snake. The frigid pond was originally the territory of the demonic king snake. At the bottom of the frigid pond, Kong Xinmu found a plant that looked like a seaweed, emitting extremely dense heaven and earth spiritual qi. This was what the demonic king snake was guarding. Once the plant matured, the snake would be able to swallow it and try to break through to the next realm. Now that the plant was about to mature, it attracted the covetous eyes of other demonic beasts, which led to the battle just now. The demonic king snake won the battle, but it was also heavily injured. Under such circumstances, the sudden appearance of Kong Xinmu made the snake feel as if it was facing a formidable enemy. Although it was a first-stage rebirth state demonic king, it was still alert when it saw Kong Xinmu ambushing it. It attacked Kong Xinmu in its heavily injured state. This is a mirage snake. Kong Xinmu looked at the snake and thought. The mirage snake was a powerful demonic beast that could release illusions. It could use illusions to disrupt the opponent's senses in battle. Even when facing the heavily injured demonic king snake, Kong Xinmu did not let his guard down. After all, the opponent was a rebirth state demonic king snake and could use the power of samsara. The power of samsara was a level higher than the power of nirvana. It would definitely be stronger, and there might even be some fundamental changes. This was the first time Kong Xinmu fought against a rebirth state demonic king. Although it was heavily injured, he still did not dare to be careless. Martial Dragon Shield. When the mirage snake attacked Kong Xinmu immediately used his dragon defense technique. Although it was only a second-grade dragon martial technique, his chaotic dragon body had already reached the earth tier, so the dragon defense technique did not affect him much. Even without using the dragon defense technique, Kong Xinmu was confident that he could withstand the attack. The martial dragon divine shield was better than nothing. The sea serpent's attack swept toward Kong Xinmu like a thunderstorm, which instantly shrouded Kong Xinmu's body and shattered the martial dragon shield into pieces. Following that, boundless water elemental energy came from all directions, wrapping around Kong Xinmu tightly. A terrifying destructive force enveloped his divine dragon body. In an instant, Kong Xinmu was heavily injured. The other party's samsara power seemed to have a corrosive effect, causing the scales on Kong Xinmu's divine dragon body to be burned. Dark Dragon Filth Control. Boundless pain came from all over his body, but Kong Xinmu immediately executed this high-grade origin dragon martial technique. His powerful recovery ability burst forth immediately, and his injuries began to heal. However, the attack from the Demon King Mirage Snake was too fierce, and the terrifying corrosive effect almost offset Kong Xinmu's recovery speed and the speed at which he was being corroded. No wonder those demonic beasts were corroded beyond recognition. It turns out that it's a high-intensity corrosive force. Although Kong Xinmu was in pain all over his body, the more he was in this state, the more clear-headed he was. His nirvana-devouring force spread to the surroundings in an instant, directly eroding some of the surrounding aquatic plants, and began to devour the life-energy essence of those plants. There were many corpses of demonic beasts in the field, but the life-energy essence of the corpses had all been drained. Otherwise, they wouldn't have died. Therefore, Kong Xinmu could only devour the aquatic plants to ensure his recovery. Of course, at the same time, the Demon King Mirage Snake was already seriously injured, and black blood flowed from its body. Kong Xinmu did not stand on ceremony and directly eroded the nirvana-devouring force into its body, and began to devour wantonly. In an instant, the two parties met face to face. Kong Xinmu was seriously injured. This situation made the Demon King Mirage Snake somewhat relieved. After all, Kong Xinmu was seriously injured by it in one move. This meant that it would only need to attack a few more times, and Kong Shinmu would be killed by it. Now, in its opinion, Kong Shinmu seemed to be much easier to deal with than the group of demonic beasts that targeted it previously. At least, Kong Shinmu did not seem to have any offensive ability. The Demon King Mirage Snake roared, and its terrifying power continued to envelop and sweep towards Kong Shinmu. If it were a student from the Yuheng district, he would probably have died in the hands of this Demon King Mirage Snake. However, Kong Shinmu stubbornly survived. Moreover, after being attacked twice in a row, the injuries of Kong Shinmu's divine dragon body did not worsen. This was because the dark dragon filth controlling skill was rapidly healing his injuries, and his nirvana devouring force had already begun to devour the life energy and flesh essence in the Mirage Snake's body. This allowed Kong Shinmu's seriously injured divine dragon body to double its recovery. In such a state, Kong Shinmu's injuries did not worsen, but the Mirage Snake, which was already seriously injured, became a little uncomfortable. It launched 2 full-force attacks, consuming what little energy it had left. In addition, its body was corroded by Kong Shinmu's nirvana devouring force, and the loss of its vitality made it feel that something was wrong. Obviously, the Demon King Mirage Snake felt that something was wrong. It retreated quickly, and its pair of snake eyes stared at Kong Shinmu. Logically, it should be able to kill this little dragon martial artist in 2 moves. But now, this dragon martial artist's vitality seemed to be recovering rapidly. Its samsara corrosion force did not seem to have a good effect on Kong Shinmu. If it were other Nirvana realm existences, they would not be able to resist its samsara corrosion force at all. Even if they were attacked once, they would be directly corroded to death. But now, Kong Shinmu did not show any signs of becoming weaker. Instead, it seemed to be getting weaker. What the hell was going on? The Demon King Mirage Snake could not understand what was going on with this little dragon martial artist in front of it. Why couldn't it expel the power that was corroding its body? It was as if all its strength had been absorbed. It must end the battle quickly. The Demon King Mirage Snake felt that something was wrong. It immediately mobilized all its strength and exploded. Countless long black shadows condensed in the cold pool water, and then quickly swept towards Kong Shinmu's divine dragon body. These long black shadows were like venomous snakes that moved alone in the dark, invading Kong Shinmu's divine dragon body from all directions. The terrifying corrosive force began to explode in Kong Shinmu's internal organs. However, after the Demon King Mirage Snake used this move, all its strength was almost exhausted. Its entire body, which was hundreds of feet long, shrank to the side of the heaven and earth treasure at the bottom of the cold pool, and stared at Kong Shinmu with extreme vigilance. If this move could not kill Kong Shinmu, then it was very likely to be in danger. Chapter 43:10. The Mirage Snake King was dumbfounded. The corrosive and destructive power of that move just now was much stronger and more terrifying than its first and second moves. However, the impact on Kong Shinmu seemed to be less than its previous 2 attacks. What the hell was going on? The Mirage Snake King was puzzled. It had never seen such a situation in its life. It was incredible. Of course, it did not know that its first 2 attacks had increased Kong Shinmu's resistance to the corrosive force to a certain extent. Its third attack was basically no longer a threat to Kong Shinmu. Kong Shinmu's nirvana devouring force had already eroded into the Mirage Snake King's body and erupted with an unparalleled devouring force, absorbing the remaining flesh and blood essence into Kong Shinmu's body. Kong Shinmu's condition was getting better and better. However, the Mirage Snake King found that the situation had become very bad. It seemed that the closer it was to Kong Shinmu, the stronger the devouring force was, causing its life force to deplete faster and faster. It wanted to run. The Mirage Snake King still had a strong desire to live. It turned around and fled immediately. Although it was very unwilling to let someone take away the heaven and earth treasure that it had guarded for several years, it was ultimately not as important as its life. As long as it could survive, anything was possible. However, if it lost its life, it would lose everything. Without any hesitation, the Mirage Snake King turned around and fled. It instantly flew out of the cold pool and flew higher. Kang Xinmu wanted to chase after it, but if he did, he would likely expose himself. It would be terrible if other powerful beasts were attracted. Therefore, Kang Xinmu did not chase after it. Instead, he took advantage of the quiet surroundings to go forward and directly put away the heaven and earth treasure. Although it was not fully mature, it was not a problem for Kang Xinmu to wait for 2 or 3 days. Even if it was only 90% of the effect when it was fully mature, Kang Xinmu could still use the devouring force to completely absorb it. The efficiency was several times higher than the beasts and other dragon martial artists. Therefore, it did not matter if it was not fully mature. He swiftly plucked the herb, and then glanced at the corpses of the demon beasts. There seems to be a demonic core in the corpse of the demonic beast. Kang Xinmu suddenly discovered this point and couldn't help but be delighted in his heart. The demonic beast's demonic core was extremely useful to him. Even if he did not use it, he could bring it back to the Dragon Martial Academy and exchange it for experience points. Of course, only the beast cores of the demonic beasts in the Beast Abyss could be exchanged for experience points at the Dragon Martial Academy. Monster cores obtained through other means could not be exchanged. There are a total of 6 demonic beasts that died in the hands of the demonic king Mirage Snake. Each of them is a demon king at the peak of the Nirvana Tribulation realm. All of them died in the hands of the Mirage Snake. How strong was that thing at its peak? Kang Xinmu felt a little lucky. If he had encountered the Mirage Serpent King at its peak, he might not have been able to defeat it. He had really picked up a big bargain today. Looks like there are indeed many fortuitous encounters in the Beast Abyss. Although today's situation is definitely rare, it's equivalent to working hard in the outside world for a month or 2 if I encounter it once. Kang Xinmu quickly took away the 6 demonic beasts' demonic cores. Kang Xinmu also dealt with the corpses of the 6 demonic beasts. Some of the parts of the demonic beasts' corpses could be used to forge high-grade dragon weapons. He could also exchange them for experience points when he brought them back. Kang Xinmu roughly estimated the value of the 6 demonic beasts and felt that he had struck it rich this time. This trip was worth it. Kang Xinmu knew that he had struck it rich. The 6 demonic beasts' corpses were relatively intact. Only a few parts had been corroded. The parts that needed to be used to forge dragon weapons were very sturdy and could not be easily corroded. The value of each demonic beast's corpse was comparable to the experience points he had obtained from exterminating the Snow Wolf demonic beast tribe. In fact, it was even more than that. Including the heavenly treasure, Kang Xinmu's harvest this time was equivalent to what he had obtained in the past 3 months. That was under the condition that he often went on suitable missions. It might even be more than that. The main reason was that the heavenly treasure contained too much spiritual chi of heaven and earth. If he were to exchange for this heavenly treasure at Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy, he would have to work hard for at least 2 months. Kang Xinmu quickly dealt with the demonic beasts' corpses at the bottom of the cold lake. After about 5 minutes, he quickly left the cold lake that reeked of blood. At this moment, he suddenly had an idea. The demon king Mirage Snake that had escaped seemed to be getting weaker. It was mainly because of the devouring power in its body. Kang Xinmu could sense its exact location and condition. Although the devouring effect weakened when he was far away, the demon king Mirage Snake was already seriously injured and had absorbed a lot of its flesh and blood essence. Even if it wanted to escape, it would not be able to go far. Kang Xinmu sensed that the demon king Mirage Snake seemed to have landed in a towering ancient forest not far away and was dying. Let's go and take a look. If I can get the demonic core of a demon king in the reincarnation tribulation realm, my harvest this time will be even greater. This is equivalent to working outside for half a year. Kang Xinmu was looking forward to it. He quickly flew in the direction of the aura of the devouring power. Soon, he smelled a very strong smell of blood coming from the dense forest ahead. He did not let his guard down. After returning to his human form, he slowly approached the place where the smell of blood was coming from with the help of the magic ink beast. Soon, he hid behind the shadow of a large tree and carefully peeked out. He found the Demon King Mirage Snake lying limply in the dense forest, looking like it was dying. However, there were no other small demonic beasts that dared to approach it. After all, the aura of the Demon King was still very obvious. Some of the weaker demonic beasts did not dare to approach it at all. However, Kang Xinmu looked at the limp mirage snake in the dense forest and frowned slightly. This mirage snake looked like it was dying, but in fact, it seemed to still have the strength to fight. This kind of demonic beast was very scary when it fought with its life on the brink of death. Kang Xinmu did not want to take the risk at all. He hid at the side and sensed the devouring power in the mirage snake's body. He slowly used the devouring power to devour the essence of its life. The mirage snake seemed to know that it was going to die. It simply pretended to be dying and wanted to give Kang Xinmu one last blow. Unfortunately, Kang Xinmu did not go near it at all. The devouring power continuously devoured the vitality of the other party, causing the mirage snake to become weaker and weaker. This made it instantly furious and it flew into the distance. It could have escaped originally, but now that Kang Xinmu had devoured some of its vitality, it could not even fly properly. Seeing this, Kang Xinmu could not be bothered to hide anymore. He directly transformed into a dragon and chased after it. Devouring power. Void Dragon Sky-Piercing Strike. Chapter 43:11. This Demon King Mirage Snake was rather vigilant and cunning. It was a pity that Kang Xinmu did not fall for it. Otherwise, even if he managed to kill the Mirage Snake, he would probably be heavily injured. As the Demon King Mirage Snake's life faded away, it fell into the towering ancient forest. Kang Xinmu went forward and quickly took out the Demon King Mirage Snake's demon core. Then, he sliced off all the scales on the Demon King's body. The snake scales were materials for forging defensive dragon weapons, and the quality was rather good. After all, it was a part of the Demon King's body, and its defense was extremely strong. Including this Demon King Mirage Snake, my harvest this time is really comparable to working outside for half a year. Kang Xinmu could not help but sigh. If he was lucky enough, he might have such an opportunity in the outside world. However, there were too many dragon martial artists outside. Even if there was such an opportunity, it was very likely that many experts would come to snatch it. It would not be easy for Kang Xinmu to obtain these things. This is a great harvest. Not only did I get so many essence materials from the demon corpses, but I also got that heaven and earth treasure. Kang Xinmu did not know what the heaven and earth treasure was called. After all, it was a plant that grew in the water. It was normal that he did not know. However, he could feel the rich heaven and earth spirit chi in it. After absorbing the heaven and earth spirit chi, I'm not far from the 6th level of the Nirvana Tribulation Realm. Kang Xinmu was a little excited. Of course, it was still far from reaching the 6th level of the Nirvana Tribulation Realm with just this heaven and earth treasure. He did not plan to leave the Beast Abyss just like that. There were many opportunities in this place. Since he had entered once, he was not in a hurry to leave. He put away the heaven and earth treasure so that no one would find it. He also put away the other things. However, there were too many things, and he did not know how to take them away. He could exchange for a belt for storage in the Dragon Martial Academy, but that would require a lot of experience points. Kang Xinmu did not have such things on him now. He could only use the Demon King Mirage Snake's snakeskin to make a rough snakeskin bag and put all the materials in it. There were a lot of things on his back, and he looked as conspicuous as a small mountain. However, the spirit chi of that heaven and earth treasure did not leak. After all, the snakeskin of the Demon King Clam Serpent had a good defense and aura isolation effect. Kong Shinmu carried the snakeskin bag and began to move deeper into the towering ancient forest. Although he had the help of the flying ink beast, he was carrying a large snakeskin bag. It was not easy to hide the flying ink serpent's aura. Wherever he went, the small demonic beasts and some small animals scattered in all directions. None of them dared to stay near him. But Kong Shinmu didn't care. Next, he just wanted to see if he could find any new opportunities. If he encountered danger, he could just leave. In any case, he had already gained a lot from this trip. The towering ancient forest was extremely vast. As Kong Shinmu ventured deeper into the towering ancient forest, he sensed that the air around him was getting heavier and heavier. It was as if there were many powerful existences in the vicinity. He even saw footprints left behind by some powerful demonic beasts that were dozens of feet long. This demonic beast is at least at the level of a demon king. Moreover, it must be at the reincarnation tribulation realm. Kong Shinmu observed the row of footprints and was alarmed. If he were to fight such a demonic beast head-on, he might really be killed in one move. The difference in strength was too great. If he encountered it, it was best to escape first. He carefully moved deeper into the towering ancient forest. When night fell, he had no intention of resting. Instead, he moved even faster. This was because this dense forest had lost all light and was plunged into darkness. This made Kong Shinmu, who had the cover of the flying ink beast, extremely blurry. He was like an invisible shadow that shuttled silently through the forest. Oh! In the middle of the night, Kong Shinmu suddenly stopped in his tracks. He seemed to hear the sounds of fighting in front of him. If there was a fight, it meant that there was a chance. The big bag of good stuff that Kong Shinmu was carrying on his back was because the Demon King Mirage Snake had experienced an intense battle and was seriously injured. Otherwise, it would not have been taken advantage of by Kong Shinmu. He slowly moved in the direction of the fighting sounds. He could hear the sounds of fighting becoming clearer and clearer. It was obvious that the other party was getting closer and closer to him. Soon, he arrived at the top of a small hill. The ground in the towering ancient forest was not flat. There were small hills one after another. Kong Shinmu was now on one of the hills, looking ahead. He could clearly see that in the sky ahead, there were a few dragon martial artists flying in the form of dragons. They were actually besieging a soaring serpent demonic beast that was thousands of feet long. The soaring serpent was a snake-type demonic beast that could fly as soon as it was born. It had a pair of fleshy wings on its body like a giant python. The soaring serpent in front of him was thousands of feet long. It's a demon emperor. Kong Shinmu's heart skipped a beat. He hurriedly hid himself even more. The existence of a demon emperor was not something that he could deal with at the moment. Although the sky was dark, there was still some fire attribute energy flying in the air. With the help of the fire, Kong Shinmu could see that the dragon martial artists besieging the soaring serpent were actually powerhouses of the dragon emperor level. I can't see who they are. They should be dragon emperor powerhouses from the Dragon Martial Institution, right? They're definitely not just from the Yuheng district. They should at least be students from the Migres district. Kong Shinmu began to observe carefully. He took a closer look and realized that there were a total of 4 Dragon Emperor powerhouses. They should be students from the Dragon Martial Institution who were besieging the Demon Emperor. The Demon Emperor was not the only Demon Emperor in the towering ancient forest, but it was definitely one of the more powerful ones. None of the demonic beasts in the sky dared to participate in such an intense battle. It was obvious that the Demon Emperor was much more powerful than the other demonic beasts around. Otherwise, some demonic beasts would definitely appear to help the soaring serpent demon emperor. Now that the soaring serpent demon emperor was fighting alone, it meant that the other demonic beasts would not even be cannon fodder if they were involved in the battle. Kang Xinmu did not appear rashly. In the night, he could not see which of the 4 Dragon Emperor powerhouses were from the Dragon Martial Institution. He could only watch the battle continue. Among the 4 Dragon Emperor powerhouses, one of them was the Nether Fire Divine Dragon. He seemed to be the leader. The fire attribute dragon martial technique that he unleashed danced in the sky, illuminating the night sky with a chilling intent. It was the Nether Fire Divine Dragon. Chapter 43:12. Other than the earthly fire divine dragon, the other 3 divine dragons were the Rocky Destiny Dragon, the 9 Revolutions Extreme Ice Dragon, and the Starry Sky Tyrant Dragon. These 3 divine dragon blood essences were the top-notch divine dragon blood essences that Kang Xinmu had seen in some records. These 4 dragon martial artists were probably top-notch sky dragons when they first awakened. After absorbing some of the dragon mark's energy, they reached the level of Dragon King. Now, they are all Dragon Emperor. Moreover, they seem to be at the 2nd or 3rd tier of the rebirth tribulation state. As for that demon emperor soaring snake, it seems to be at the 4th tier of the rebirth tribulation state. Kang Xinmu quickly distinguished the strength levels of the 2 sides and realized that this battle was indeed not one that he could participate in. He did not intend to intervene, but watching the battle between the Dragon Emperor and the Demon Emperor was beneficial to him. Therefore, he did not leave and planned to gain some battle experience. Perhaps, his opponent in the future would be one of the 4 students of the Dragon Emperor Academy. Kang Xinmu did not forget that he had been ostracized and targeted by Deans Wu Xiaofan at Donghuang Yangwu College. If there was a chance in the future, he would definitely make the other party suffer. The fierce battle continued until dawn. Kang Xinmu did not leave. He squatted on top of a big tree on the hill for the whole night. The battle between the Dragon Emperor and the Demon Emperor did not end the whole night. Even now, it was still getting more and more intense. Neither side could break the other's defense. But it could be seen that the Demon Emperor Soaring Snake was gradually at a disadvantage. It was basically defending passively and did not take the initiative to attack. And the 4 Dragon Emperor experts were attacking more and more frequently. They seemed to be anxious and wanted to kill the Demon Emperor Soaring Snake. They seemed to be anxious. Because of what? Kang Xinmu did not quite understand. But at this moment, the Demon Emperor Soaring Snake suddenly burst out. The Soaring Serpent Demon Emperor had been suppressed all this while. However, at this moment, the Soaring Serpent Demon Emperor released a dark green mist that erupted into the surrounding sky. The Demon Emperor Soaring Serpent was a demonic beast with a poison attribute. Its main attribute was wood, and wood contained poison. The attack of this kind of demonic beast was usually hard to guard against. When it suddenly went berserk, the 4 Dragon Emperor powerhouses did not expect it. They were initially very cautious, but for some reason, they were a little anxious just now, which allowed the Soaring Serpent Demon Emperor to find an opening. Among them, the 9 Revolutions Extreme Ice Dragon's ice barrier was broken by the dark green poisonous gas and shattered. The originally snow-white divine dragon's body suddenly turned dark green. It was in trouble. Originally, their defense was quite tight, but as soon as they revealed a flaw, one of them was immediately hit. Be careful. A loud roar came from one of the mystical dragons, and the 4 mystical dragons retreated immediately. Among them, the Starry Skies Tyrannosaurus dragon grabbed the poisoned 9 Revolutions Extreme Ice Dragon and ran the fastest, looking extremely anxious. The 4 mystical dragons fled in 3 different directions. At this moment, Kang Xinmu realized that another demon sovereign had appeared in the distant sky. It was an enormous creature that swept over like a black cloud. It was a pitch-black old soaring serpent. The old soaring serpent looked like a demon king, but its cultivation had already reached the pinnacle of the rebirth tribulation realm. The 9th tier of the rebirth tribulation realm. At such a level, even if it was just a demon king, it was not something that the few Dragon Emperor students who had just entered the rebirth tribulation realm could fight against. The black demon king soaring serpent, which was hundreds of feet long, flew over and let out a tearing roar. Then, it chased after the nether fire divine dragon. The sky quickly returned to peace. The figures of the Dragon Emperor and the Demon King disappeared into the clouds in the extremely distant sky. Only a Demon King soaring serpent, which seemed to be slightly injured, was left in the field. It landed in a valley and seemed to be hiding. Kong Shinmu did not act rashly. After a while, he realized that the Boulder Mandate Dragon seemed to be unwilling to give up and had returned. It appeared in the clouds above, looking for the traces of the Demon King's soaring serpent, and chased after it. The Nether Fire Divine Dragon lured the Demon King soaring serpent away. The 9 Revolutions Extreme Ice Dragon was poisoned and should be treated by the Starry Skies Tyrannosaurus Dragon. Only the Boulder Mandate Dragon has the time to come back. Kong Shinmu thought to himself as he slowly followed. Of course, he followed very slowly and cautiously, so it was impossible for the other party to discover him. The other party directly transformed into a dragon and chased after him. It was difficult for Kong Shinmu to not keep up with the Boulder Mandate Dragon that was thousands of feet long. Anyway, the other party was searching for the traces of the Demon King's soaring serpent, so its flying speed was relatively slow. Even if Kong Shinmu did not transform into a dragon, he could still keep up with the other party's pace. When it was almost noon, Kong Shinmu discovered that the Boulder Mandate Dragon had stopped and was slowly approaching the valley where the Demon King's soaring serpent was resting. The Boulder Mandate Dragon had discovered the injured Demon King's soaring serpent. Kong Shinmu's heart skipped a beat. He knew that if he wanted any benefits, this was about the time. The Demon King's soaring serpent should be injured, but Kong Shinmu did not dare to rashly attack it since it was at the 4th level of the Reincarnation Tribulation realm. Soon, the sounds of a fierce battle broke out in the valley. The Boulder Mandate Dragon seemed to have cultivated a body-tempering dragon-type martial technique. Coupled with its Boulder Mandate Dragon's innate power, its defensive ability was extremely terrifying and almost flawless. No one of the same level could break through the defense of the Boulder Mandate Dragon unless its power was exhausted. However, it seemed that the Boulder Mandate Dragon still had a lot of power left, and it was still far from exhausting its power. Do I have to wait for them to fight until both sides are injured and then take advantage of them? Kong Shinmu felt a little excited at the thought of it. I'm too lucky, aren't I? He was carrying a snakeskin bag on his back, and it was very likely that there would be Boulder Mandate Dragon spoils ahead. He was a little embarrassed to collect them. The Boulder Mandate Dragon is dealing with the Demon King soaring serpent alone. Although the Demon King soaring serpent is injured, I'm afraid it won't be that easy. The Boulder Mandate Dragon was at the 3rd level of the Reincarnation Tribulation realm. It was 1 level lower than the Demon King soaring serpent, and the gap was still quite large. Even if the other party was injured, it would not be that easy to deal with. Kong Shinmu sensed the fierce battle in the valley and slowly approached. Due to the aura of the Demon King soaring serpent on his back, some of the surrounding small demonic beasts, including some weaker sky demons and sacred demons, did not dare to get too close to Kong Shinmu. Soon, Kong Shinmu arrived at the cliff next to the valley where the fierce battle was taking place. Looking down, he found that the Demon King soaring serpent and the Boulder Mandate Dragon were already fighting fiercely. Both sides were already fighting hand to hand, and the power in their bodies seemed to be almost exhausted. Kong Shinmu was a little excited. However, at this moment, 2 dragon roars suddenly sounded from the cliff opposite him. There were others. Kong Shinmu's expression changed slightly. Chapter 43:13 While Kong Shinmu was hiding at the side, two dragon roars suddenly came from the opposite cliff. He looked in the direction of the sound and saw two divine dragons of the same Dragon Emperor level flying down from the opposite cliff, attacking the Demon Emperor Soaring Snake and the Boulder Mandate Dragon below. Northern Wilderness students. Rocky Fate Dragon was already seriously injured, and his strength was almost depleted. But at this time, the two dragon martial artists turned into mystical dragons and swept down, causing Rocky Fate Dragon to roar. Northern Wilderness students. From the roar of Rocky Fate Dragon, Kong Shinmu realized that the two Dragon Emperor-level powerhouses that suddenly flew out were students of the Northern Wilderness Dragon Martial Academy. As for which faction the Rocky Fate Dragon belonged to, Jiang Shenwu had no idea. After all, he had not seen the Rocky Fate Dragon revert to his human form, so he had no idea which faction the Dragon Martial Academy's mark belonged to. In any case, the Northern Wilderness Dragon Martial Academy had nothing to do with Kong Shinmu. Kong Shinmu narrowed his eyes and watched the two Dragon Emperor-level mystical dragons fly down. One attacked Rocky Fate Dragon, and the other attacked the Demon Emperor Soaring Serpent. Both of them had the power of fire attributes. Flames instantly spread and engulfed the entire valley. Even the place where Kong Shinmu was hiding was covered in flames. In the forest, the power of the flames announced the arrival of death. After the flames spread, Kong Shinmu could not see what was going on in the valley. But if Kong Shinmu was involved in the battle between the Dragon Emperor and the Demon Emperor, he would not have a good ending. Although the Rocky Fate Dragon and the Demon Emperor Soaring Serpent had exhausted their strength at the beginning, the two dragon martial artists were in peak condition. One could imagine that the Rocky Fate Dragon and the Demon Emperor Soaring Serpent would likely join forces to fight against each other. Otherwise, they would all be in danger. Of course, the Rocky Fate Dragon could use the mark on its wrist to teleport back to the Dragon Martial Academy. However, once the demonic Emperor Soaring Serpent's life was in danger, it would truly die. Moreover, the Rocky Fate Dragon would not be willing to be chased out of the Beast Abyss just like that. After all, the experience points needed to enter the Beast Abyss were not a small number. Kong Shinmu didn't dare to barge into the battlefield. But soon, he felt as if there was a figure flying towards his hiding place. Perhaps they were fleeing, or perhaps they had discovered his hiding place and attacked him directly. It was impossible for Kong Shinmu to stay where he was, but he did not panic. He carefully moved to the side. Soon, he realized that his opponent's route hadn't changed. He should be running. Who could it be? Is it the Demon Emperor Soaring Serpent or the Boulder Destiny Dragon? Kong Shinmu thought. If it was the demonic sovereign Soaring Serpent, Jiang Shenwu might really make a move in this situation where the entire valley was engulfed in flames. He might be able to kill it in one go and claim the biggest reward this time. That was a Demon Emperor. A Demon Emperor and a Demon King were two completely different concepts. The value of a demon core was at least 10 times different. In addition, the Demon Emperor Soaring Serpent's wings were excellent materials for forging dragon weapons. If it was the Boulder Destiny Dragon that escaped, Kong Shinmu didn't plan to make a move. Because attacking a student wouldn't bring him any benefits, and he wouldn't be able to kill the other party. The other party could escape at any time. At most, he would have to force the other party away during a fair competition. But sneak attacks were meaningless. Kong Shinmu hid at the side, paying attention to who was running towards him. Anyway, it couldn't be those two students from the Northern Desolate Dragon Martial Academy, right? Those two guys should be the Oriole in the end when they raided the valley. It was impossible for them to escape so quickly. Soon, the other party was getting closer. Kong Shinmu felt an incomparably heavy aura coming from the front, which made his heart skip a beat. It's the Boulder Destiny Dragon. Kong Shinmu secretly felt that it was a pity. If it was the Demon Emperor Soaring Serpent, it would be great. Unfortunately, Jiang Shenwu quickly retreated backward and hid behind the trunk of a big tree. The snakeskin bag behind him was also hidden. Although there was an aura emitting from it, the rocky fate dragon, who was on the run, should not provoke a demon king at this time. Normally, a dragon sovereign powerhouse would probably be able to kill a demon king in a few moves. But at this moment, the Boulder Destiny Dragon was seriously injured, and there were people chasing after him. Once he was restrained by the Demon King, he would probably be finished. Then, Kang Shinmu saw the Boulder Destiny Dragon flying past the bushes in front of him, his body stained with endless blood. The originally heavy khaki-colored dragon body was now covered with blood. His blood dripped along the way into the dense forest, and then quickly flew away. Kang Shinmu felt the dripping blood and suddenly thought of a possibility. If he devoured this guy's blood that contained the Boulder Destiny Dragon's power, could he disguise himself as it? He didn't act rashly. He carefully sensed the aura around him and found that no one was chasing after him. That's right. Those two Northern Desolate Dragon Academy students must be targeting the Demon Emperor Soaring Serpent. Since the Boulder Destiny Dragon wants to run, they won't abandon the Demon Emperor Soaring Serpent to chase after us. Kang Shinmu felt that the fierce battle in the valley was getting more and more intense. It was as if the Demon Emperor Soaring Serpent was facing the siege of the two Northern Desolate Dragon Academy students alone and had begun to fight with his life on the line. This made Kang Shinmu's heart boil. He quickly moved forward and quietly covered the Boulder Destiny Dragon's blood with the Nirvana Devouring Force. Devour. Jiang Shenwu's devouring Nirvana Force instantly devoured the power within the blood and made it his own. Furthermore, that power directly covered his body. Disguise, it works. If Kang Shinmu could disguise himself as that guy's aura, he might be able to do something in this situation where the sky was filled with flames. Even if he snatched the spoils of war from the Demon Emperor Soaring Serpent, he wouldn't expose Kang Shinmu himself. The Boulder Destiny Dragon probably had no choice but to take the blame for this. Kang Shinmu had once wondered if the Nirvana Devouring Force could disguise himself. Now that the other party's blood was flowing all the way, he tried it and found that it actually worked. Devour, disguise. The Black Dragon's consciousness is terrifyingly powerful. Kang Shinmu couldn't help but think. However, in this situation, for the sake of his own improvement, he couldn't care less about this. He needed more Boulder Destiny Dragon's blood to completely disguise himself as the other party's aura and appearance. By covering himself with the aura, he could let others feel the aura of the Boulder Destiny Dragon. In a situation where the flames covered the sky and the scene couldn't be seen clearly, almost no one could see through this disguise. Of course, if the other party could see clearly with the naked eye, this disguise wouldn't be of much use. The main thing was that the Boulder Destiny Dragon was a Dragon Emperor. After transforming into a dragon, his body was thousands of feet long. After all, Kang Shinmu was just a Dragon King. The difference in size was too big. Chapter 43:14. Kang Shinmu transformed into a divine dragon. While devouring the rocky fate dragon's divine dragon blood, he quickly chased in the direction he fled. Because the divine dragon's blood that was left in the forest was not enough for him to complete a complete disguise. He had to follow the traces of the other party's escape and devour all the blood left behind. This process was likely to be discovered by the other party. After all, Kang Shinmu had to devour the divine dragon's blood that had not dried up. Otherwise, the effect would not be so strong. This required Kang Shinmu to follow closely. Under such circumstances, once Kang Shinmu gave himself away, the other party was likely to discover him. As for the consequences, Kang Shinmu did not know. He could not be bothered to think about it. Anyway, he had to devour all the traces left by the other party first. He flew all the way and soon flew out of the range of the valley. As he devoured the rocky fate dragon's blood along the way, Kong Shinmu's aura became more and more similar to the other party. However, he had already chased out of the range of the valley. Fortunately, that guy fled in the sky. All the blood that flowed out fell on the ground. I'll devour his blood on the ground, and he won't be able to discover me. Kong Shinmu was very careful along the way. With the help of the Nightmare Ink Beast, his aura was well hidden. Even now, when he needed it, the aura wrapped in the snakeskin on his back was hidden. When the other party flew in the sky, it could not sense Kong Shinmu's existence at all. This made Kong Shinmu's actions very fast. He devoured the other party's blood as fast as he could and chased for dozens of miles. Finally, he felt that his body was filled with the aura of the rocky fate dragon. Done. Without any hesitation, Kong Shinmu turned and headed back in the direction of the valley. From afar, he saw a plume of smoke rising from the valley and flames soaring into the sky. It seems that the battle is getting more and more intense. The Demon Emperor Soaring Snake's desperate resistance is definitely not that simple. Kong Shinmu thought to himself as he quickly passed through the dense forest below and approached the valley. For the rocky fate dragon, Kong Shinmu, and other dragon warriors, a distance of dozens of miles could be covered in a moment. Kong Shinmu chased after him, devoured the blood, and flew back in less than 10 minutes. The valley was still in chaos. The two fire-type Dragon Emperor students had already burned everything that could be burned in the valley. The Demon Emperor Soaring Snake's roar could be heard dozens of miles away. Unfortunately, the powerful Demon King Soaring Snake, which was close to the peak of the Samsara Tribulation Realm, had already been lured away by the Dragon Warrior students. No one knew where he had gone, and he had yet to return. Kong Shinmu transformed into a black dragon and flew into the thick smoke of the valley, blending into it in no time. Amidst the flames and thick smoke, it was impossible to see Kong Shinmu's black dragon form with the naked eye. He could only sense his aura with the perception unique to dragon practitioners. However, what he sensed was the aura of the rocky fate dragon. After Kong Shinmu flew into the valley, he didn't stop at all. He flew straight in the direction of the three powerful auras. Now, the Demon Emperor Soaring Snake should be dead. I'll take the opportunity to take its demon core. As for the other materials for forging dragon weapons, I can't care about them now. Kong Shinmu was very clear about his goal, and his thoughts were clear. After all, he had limited time. The two Dragon Emperor students from the Northern Desolate Dragon Martial Academy would not give him too much time to do anything. Once they discovered him, they would definitely attack him together. Once Kong Shinmu fought with them, they would definitely realize that his aura was fake. Therefore, he couldn't fight them. Under such circumstances, Kong Shinmu could only end the battle quickly. He would get what he wanted and run away. And the demon core on the Demon Emperor Soaring Snake was obviously the most valuable. Kong Shinmu flew toward the center of the battlefield. He could already hear the dying hisses of the Demon Emperor Soaring Snake. However, the battle was still very noisy. One could imagine that the Demon Emperor Soaring Snake was still struggling. It's a pity that the poison of the Nightmare Ink Beast is useless against the Demon Emperor and the Dragon Emperor. Otherwise, it would be easier. Kong Shinmu felt that it was a pity. He flew forward quickly. At that moment, the Demon Emperor Soaring Snake let out a mournful cry, followed by the sound of a heavy object falling to the ground. The entire valley trembled heavily. The Demon Emperor Soaring Snake weighed hundreds of thousands of kilograms. When it fell, it was like a small mountain falling to the ground, crashing down. It's time to act. Kong Shinmu could even hear the conversation between the two Dragon Emperor students from the Northern Desolate Dragon Martial Academy. When Kong Shinmu got close to the Demon Emperor Soaring Snake and sensed that the Demon Emperor Soaring Snake's corpse was right in front of him, he suddenly released his aura, letting it spread out instantly. Of course, he released the aura of the Boulder Destiny Dragon. When he released his energy, he charged straight ahead. His devouring power exploded instantly. Using the Void Dragon Sky-Raising Breaks Origin Dragon Martial technique, he condensed 6 pitch-black light beams and blasted them at the mountain-like figure that appeared in front of him. With a loud bang, the Demon Emperor Soaring Snake's corpse was blasted with 6 bloody holes by Kang Shinmu. The devouring power instantly corroded the corpse. Someone's there. It's the Boulder Destiny Dragon. Amidst the flames and thick smoke, the 2 Northern Desolate Dragon Martial Academy students immediately roared in anger and swept towards where Kang Shinmu was. Unfortunately, when Kang Shinmu blasted through the Demon Emperor Soaring Snake's corpse, he accurately found the location of the demon core with his devouring power. Then, he took it away in one fell swoop. When the 2 Dragon Emperor students rushed over, Kang Shinmu had already obtained the Demon Emperor Soaring Snake's demon core and quickly retreated out of the valley. After his successful attack, he used the Obsidian Ink Beast to conceal his aura. Even though the other party was prepared, they could still vaguely sense the aura of the Boulder Destiny Dragon and quickly caught up. After all, the Obsidian Ink Beast's concealment ability was not omnipotent and could not fool everyone. However, the 2 Dragon Emperor students from the Northern Desolate Dragon Martial Academy were not chasing in the direction that Kang Shinmu escaped, but in the direction that Kang Shinmu had left behind a pool of blood. That pool of blood was the blood of the Boulder Destiny Dragon that he had devoured. The direction that Kang Shinmu escaped in was completely the opposite direction. Great Harvest. Kang Shinmu heard the movement behind him getting further and further away, but he did not let his guard down. Although he was a little excited, he was not out of danger yet. There were many Dragon Martial Academy students nearby, and he might encounter Dragon Martial Academy students from other academies as soon as he left the valley. Could it be that I have to make a trip back first? Kang Shinmu thought carefully as he escaped from the valley. Just as he was about to leave the thick smoke, he suddenly heard the sound of wind whistling in front of him. The dragon roar seemed to be not far away. There's someone else. It's better to be safe and go back first. The harvest this time is big enough. When Kang Shinmu heard the dragon roar in front of him, he did not hesitate and directly activated Emperor Shi's seal on his wrist. Chapter 43:15. When Kang Shinmu appeared at Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy, he felt cold sweat all over his body. The previous operation was really too dangerous. It was so dangerous that the students of the Dragon Emperor Academy might have discovered his identity if he had been just a little bit more. If that had happened, even if he could escape from the Beast Abyss this time, the next time he entered the Beast Abyss, he would very likely become the target of everyone. No matter what, he did not expose his identity this time, and he even obtained a large number of treasures, especially the demon core of the Demon Emperor Soaring Serpent. The harvest was too great. This was almost equivalent to the harvest that Kang Shinmu could obtain if he continued doing experiential missions for a year. Such a harvest was really worthy of the intense competition in the Beast Abyss. Of course, Kang Shinmu knew that his luck was very good this time. Under normal circumstances, even if a Dragon Martial Artist student who was stronger than him entered the Beast Abyss, it would be impossible for him to obtain such a great harvest. The harvest this time is 2 high-grade demon cores, 1 Demon King, and 1 Demon Emperor. There is also a treasure at the bottom of the water, which is enough for me to step into the 5th tier of the Nirvana Tribulation realm. There were also some other demonic beast materials that could be used to forge dragon weapons. Added together, it saved him at least a year of hard work. This result was undoubtedly gratifying. Moreover, he had only entered the Beast Abyss for a few days. Kang Shinmu looked around. There was no one around the Emperor Shi formation. He heaved a sigh of relief and immediately went to exchange for experience points. Kang Shinmu did not have much use for the high-grade demon cores now, so he did not have much need for them. Therefore, he exchanged them for experience points. To be honest, the instructor at the exchange for experience points was really shocked when he saw that Kang Shinmu could take out so many demon cores. However, he was sure that these two high-grade demon cores, as well as the saint-level demon cores, were obtained by Kang Shinmu from the Beast Abyss. In addition, Kang Shinmu also exchanged all the materials used to forge dragon weapons for experience points. So many experience points. It is still not enough to exchange for a high-grade origin dragon martial technique. Not bad, I can exchange for a heaven-level dragon weapon first. A dragon weapon could significantly increase the combat power of a dragon warrior. Kang Shinmu only had one heavenly saint halberd before, and he had not used it recently, mainly because there was no need to use it. He carried the heavenly saint's halberd with him so that he could use it at crucial moments, but he had never encountered a situation where he needed to use it. Sometimes, even if he used the heavenly saint halberd, he would still be unable to defeat the other party. Sometimes, there was no need to use the heavenly sage halberd at all. But if Kang Shinmu had a heaven-class dragon weapon, then the situation would be different. A heaven-grade dragon weapon could increase a dragon martialist's combat prowess by a lot more than a dragon-grade dragon weapon. It could even be said that it was several times better. I'll go pick a heaven-rank dragon weapon first, then go into seclusion and prepare to break through to the 6th level of the Nirvana Tribulation Realm. By the time these two matters were settled, Kang Shinmu's combat power would increase by several folds. At that time, he wouldn't need to take his time to deal with the Mirage Serpent King Demon King when he encountered it again. Instead, he could use the force of lightning and directly suppress the other party. However, I still have to be careful when facing opponents at the level of the Demon Emperor and Dragon Emperor. The main reason was that ordinary Dragon Emperor and Demon Emperor's cultivation level was relatively high, and most of them were already at the Samsara realm. Under the double suppression of the blood essence grade and cultivation level, Kang Shinmu really had no way to deal with them. However, the improvement of his strength definitely needed to be done step by step, so Kang Shinmu didn't need to be anxious. In any case, if he exchanged for a heaven-class dragon weapon, his foundation would already be very good. At that time, he only needed to raise his cultivation level. First, I'll raise my cultivation level to the peak of the 9th level of the Nirvana Tribulation Realm. Then, I'll consider the problem of the Divine Dragon Blood Essence grade. Kang Shinmu thought about it and felt that he still had to consider the grade of the Divine Dragon Blood Essence. Although this thing couldn't increase his strength by too much in a short period of time, once he broke through the shackles and reached the level of the Dragon Emperor, the increase would be great. The key was that he still needed to devour more Dragon Mark energy to upgrade Ran. Even when he returned to the Yen Dragon Emperor's court, he still had to upgrade Jiang Liuxue, Shi Yueying, and Shi Yutong. For Kang Shinmu, this bit of Dragon Mark energy was nothing. But it could save them decades of effort. In the outside world, treasures with Dragon Mark energy were too rare. In the entire Yen Dragon Emperor's court, there were very few of them. Even the Dragon Emperor and Dragon King needed to fight for such treasures. How could juniors like Jiang Liuxue and the others have the chance to fight for them? So if there was a chance, Kang Shinmu would still think of them and wanted to help them. After all, they were his friends in the Yen Dragon Emperor's court. Kang Shinmu began to choose the Heaven-class dragon weapon at the experience point exchange office. The types of Heaven-class dragon weapons were mainly divided into offensive, defensive, and auxiliary types. Every dragon weapon had both offensive and defensive abilities. For example, the Heavenly Sacred Halberd could transform into the Heavenly Sacred Halberd to attack the opponent, or it could transform into the pure power of the dragon weapon for defense. The Heavenly Sacred Halberd's offensive ability was stronger, so it would be more effective to use it to attack dragon skills. But some defensive dragon weapons had stronger defensive abilities, so it would be more effective to use it to defend against dragon skills. Kang Shinmu, of course, did not need a defensive dragon weapon. His current defensive ability, after practicing a variety of body-refining dragon weapons, was already strong enough. There was no need for any other methods to supplement it. But in terms of offensive ability, Kang Xinmu mainly relied on devouring talent power to deal with his opponents. Exchanging for a strong offensive dragon weapon would not increase his strength much. He only wanted to practice a high-level source dragon weapon to make up for his lack of offensive ability. As for the dragon weapon, there was no need for it. If that's the case, I can exchange for an auxiliary dragon weapon. Kang Xinmu was slightly looking forward to it. An auxiliary dragon weapon, or it could be called a special dragon weapon, usually had a variety of functions, and even a variety of effects, suitable for a variety of very complicated situations. For example, some dragon weapons could increase the speed of a dragon martial artist, some special dragon weapons could increase the recovery ability of a dragon martial artist, and some special dragon weapons could assist the cultivation of a dragon martial artist, allowing the cultivation speed of a dragon martial artist. There were even some special dragon weapons that came with a storage space. It was very difficult to forge a special dragon weapon, mainly because forging a special dragon weapon with powerful effects required extremely high forging skills. It required at least hundreds of different formations to be attached to the dragon weapon. Kang Xinmu began to choose at the exchange office. There were many things in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. Compared to Donghuang Yangwu College, there was not much difference. He did not know who made these dragon weapons. In any case, in the outside world, there were very few special dragon weapons. Chapter 43:16. Kang Xinmu looked at the various types of special dragon weapons in front of him and felt a little dazzled. There were too many types. The blacksmiths who could forge such special dragon weapons must be the top blacksmiths in the entire dragon martial continent, and it was very likely that they did not live in the dragon martial continent. After all, the dragon martial continent was only a place used by the supreme divine dragons to cultivate super divine dragons. Kang Xinmu saw many types of special dragon weapons, such as those that increased defense, and also those that increased the speed of dragon warriors. In addition, there were also those that increased the speed of cultivation. Kang Xinmu thought about it. What he lacked the most right now was still cultivation level. Therefore, he still planned to choose from the special dragon weapons that increased the speed of cultivation. Among these dragon weapons, there were those that increased the absorption of natural spiritual energy by dragon warriors, those that increased the efficiency of cultivators absorbing natural treasures, and even those that increased the speed of absorption of dragon mark energy. If it was an ordinary dragon warrior student who came to choose, they would definitely be very conflicted, because to choose a dragon weapon that was suitable for them, they had to look at their own situation. Some dragon warriors rarely exchanged for natural treasures to absorb and cultivate, and relied on natural spiritual energy to absorb and cultivate. There were also some dragon warriors who, for the sake of cultivation efficiency, exchanged for natural treasures to absorb and improve their cultivation. If they wanted to exchange for a dragon weapon, they would need different types. For Jiang Shenwu, it didn't matter whether it was the natural world's spiritual energy absorption or the absorption efficiency of natural treasures, they weren't of much use. After all, he had the innate ability of devouring, and absorbing natural treasures was 100% absorption, which was more effective than any other dragon weapon. As for natural spiritual energy absorption for cultivation, the efficiency was not high, and the speed was too slow. No matter how much he increased the efficiency, it was better than nothing for Kang Xinmu. What I really need is this. Kang Xinmu suddenly saw a special dragon weapon, and his eyes could not help but light up. This was a jade dragon weapon, carved with countless mysterious patterns and lines, and several mysterious innate abilities lingered on it, showing its excellence and extraordinariness. In front of this jade pendant, there was a stone tablet, indicating that it belonged to the rank of heaven-level dragon weapon. There were 3 types of effects. The first was to increase the speed of consolidation after one's cultivation, which was known as strength coordination. This effect allowed people to quickly grasp the power of their cultivation realm and unleash the strength that their cultivation realm should have. Most people didn't need this kind of effect. After all, for many people, the speed of their cultivation realms wasn't that fast. Most of the time, they had enough time to consolidate the power of the new realm. But for Kang Xinmu, it could save him a lot of time. This was because the coordination of power not only affected the degree of control of power after a cultivator's cultivation realm increased, but it also affected the discomfort brought about by the sharp increase in power after a dragon martial artist's divine dragon blood essence increased in grade. In the past, after Kang Xinmu's divine dragon blood essence had been upgraded, it had taken him a long time to be able to coordinate and control his strongest power. This would take at least a few months. To be honest, even the current Kang Xinmu did not have complete control over his power. Sometimes, when he used the dragon martial skill, he felt that it was not particularly coordinated. This caused him to only be able to exert about 90% of his combat power. This was because his cultivation realm and the grade of the divine dragon blood essence had both increased too quickly, causing his strength coordination to not be able to keep up. The effect of this dragon weapon jade pendant was very useful to Kang Xinmu. Only a genius dragon martial artist like him would need to use a dragon weapon with this effect. Similarly, Donghuang Yangu College's Yu Tianchang and even the Emperor of Qin were at this level. Their cultivation realms and the quality of the divine dragon blood essence would increase very quickly. Only these top geniuses could make use of this effect. The second effect of this dragon weapon jade pendant was to have a small storage space. This storage space was thousands of feet long and wide. It was extremely wide and could even contain the corpse of a dragon emperor expert. If Kang Xinmu had this thing before, it would be much more convenient to move around in the beast abyss. This effect had no effect on increasing one's combat power or cultivation speed. But the most important thing was the third effect of this dragon weapon jade pendant. It was this third effect that made this dragon weapon jade pendant named Dragon Scar Blood Pendant. The first effect of the Dragon Scar Blood Pendant was to increase the strength coordination of a dragon martial artist. The second effect was to have a storage space. The third and most important effect was also the reason why it was rated as a heaven-level dragon weapon. Everyone knew that dragon weapons could be used actively. Kang Xinmu's heavenly sacred halberd could transform into various forms. It could become the heavenly sacred halberd to attack the opponent, or even transform into the pure power of a dragon weapon. It could be used together with an offensive or defensive dragon martial skill. And this Dragon Scar Blood Pendant could also be used actively. It could transform into the power of the Dragon Scar Blood. When this power was attached to the body of a dragon martial artist, it could stimulate the dragon martial artist's divine dragon blood essence. Whether it was an expert at the level of the Dragon King or the Dragon Emperor, after a dragon martial artist was attached with the power of the Dragon Scar Blood, the strength of their talent, Nirvana force and Samsara force would be doubled. This would cause the divine dragon blood essence in the dragon martial artist's body to boil, and through several times the consumption, it would provide double the battle strength. Most importantly, the power of the Dragon Scar Blood could not only be used for battle, but also for cultivation. After attaching the power of the Dragon Scar Blood, the speed at which a dragon martial artist absorbed the Dragon Scar energy would increase by several times. The multiplier of the increase was uncertain. Different dragon martial artists would have different effects when using it. But to Kang Xinmu, it could be said to be a hidden weapon. Originally, his devouring power could devour the Dragon Scar energy dozens of times faster than others. It was just that he couldn't show it normally, otherwise it would be too shocking. Now that he had this Dragon Scar Blood Pendant, he could brazenly and quickly devour the Dragon Scar energy. In any case, no one knew how high his talent was. After using the Dragon Scar Blood Pendant, even if the speed at which he devoured the Dragon Scar energy increased by 10 times, it was still within an understandable range. Although it would attract some people's attention, it was not to the extent that it was unacceptable. In the past, there were some geniuses who, after attaching the power of the dragon scar blood, could also devour the dragon scar energy at 5 or 6 times the speed. For Kang Xinmu to do it 10 times was also within an acceptable range. Originally, he only dared to absorb the dragon scar energy at 3 times the speed of an ordinary person. But now, he could devour the dragon scar energy at 10 times the speed without worrying about his devouring power being exposed. Unfortunately, this effect is still too weak. If it was a little stronger, it would allow me to devour the dragon scar energy at 20 times the speed or even faster. That would be great. Chapter 43:17. Kang Xinmu almost immediately decided to exchange for the dragon scar blood pendant. Instructor Dragon Emperor smiled when he saw that Kang Xinmu was paying attention to the dragon scar blood pendant. He reminded him, this dragon scar blood pendant is useful for absorbing the energy of the dragon mark. However, you have to take note that the power of the dragon mark blood will damage the meridians of dragon practitioners. It is not suitable for long-term use. Kang Xinmu obviously knew about this side effect because it was explained on the stone tablet in front of him. However, Kang Xinmu directly ignored it. To him, healing injuries was a small matter. His current Dark Dragon Filth Mastery didn't even need to devour Yao cores to recover. He could just rely on the Dark Dragon Filth Mastery to heal his injuries. It was just that the effects were not as immediate as the power of devouring. Whether it was in battle or for cultivation, the healing effects of the Dark Dragon Filth Mastery were more than enough. I'll exchange for this one. Kang Xinmu said confidently. This dragon scar blood pendant could also increase his innate ability at a critical moment. One had to know that his innate ability was the power of devouring. If it was doubled, what would the effect be? Devouring the essence of any opponent's life, flesh, and blood would only take half the time. Moreover, the effect would be doubled. If he devoured a portion of the opponent's power, his divine dragon body would be immune to the opponent's attack of that attribute. One could imagine the effect of this in battle. Kang Xinmu's power of devouring, together with this dragon scar blood pendant, was simply the best partner. It's a pity that you don't have enough experience points. Instructor Dragon Emperor checked and couldn't help but shake his head with a smile. I'm still lacking quite a bit. Kang Xinmu was stunned. He looked at the price of this dragon scar blood pendant. Indeed, although this dragon scar blood pendant was powerful, the experience points needed to exchange for it were about 30% more than those ordinary heaven-grade dragon weapons. This meant that Kang Xinmu was currently lacking about 3 months' worth of experience points. And he had already used up this month's opportunity to enter the Beast Abyss. It was impossible for him to enter the Beast Abyss even if he wanted to. It seemed unlikely that he would be able to obtain this dragon scar blood pendant in a short period of time. Kang Xinmu could not help but feel a little regretful. If there was a place where he could borrow experience points, he would definitely do whatever it took to get it. Even if he had to pay back double, he would still be able to accept the conditions. This was because if he didn't get the dragon-marked blood pendant now, it was very likely that the next time he came, it would be exchanged for by someone else. Even if no one exchanged for the dragon scar blood pendant, it would still delay Kang Xinmu's cultivation for a long time. At the very least, he would have to wait until next month before going to the Beast Abyss again, and that would depend on his luck. This feeling was too unbearable. At this moment, a graceful figure suddenly flew into the hall of the palace where the experience points exchange office was located. She was dressed in red and had a tall figure. It was Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy's Yuheng District Xiaoyu Flower. Kang Xinmu had sparred with Xiaoyu Flower before, so he had some understanding of her battle prowess. She might not be stronger than him, but she was definitely not too weak. Moreover, she was not old and had just entered Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy not long ago. She was the kind of person with extremely high talent. Kang Xinmu thought for a moment. Should he borrow it from her? Hello. Xiaoyu Flower flew into the hall. When she saw Kang Xinmu, she was a little surprised. However, she still greeted him politely. She was naturally here to exchange for cultivation resources. Hello, Kang Xinmu said embarrassedly. He looked her up and down, wanting to say something but hesitating. Looking at Kang Xinmu's strange expression, Xiaoyu Flower was a little puzzled. Kang Xinmu, what's with your expression? She felt that Kang Xinmu was looking at her as if he was looking at a fool. She had a bad premonition. Ha! On the other hand, Mentor Dragon Emperor laughed. This middle-aged uncle looked very kind. He patted Kang Xinmu's head and said, "This kid wants to exchange for this dragon scar blood pendant. Unfortunately, he doesn't have enough experience points. He probably wants to borrow it from you, but he's too embarrassed." Kang Xinmu was indeed too embarrassed. This was because he knew very well that experience points were a very precious resource for any Dragon Martial Academy student. No matter who it was, they would rarely lend it to others. After all, experience points meant cultivation resources, which meant that they could increase their strength. To a large extent, experience points determined the speed of improvement of Dragon Martial Academy students. Even a month earlier or a month later would have a completely different concept. Indeed. Kang Xinmu was a little embarrassed. However, if you are willing to lend me these experience points, I can return them double. Return them double. These 4 words immediately stunned Mentor Dragon Emperor. Even Xiaoyu Flower had the same expression. Just how many experience points did Kang Xinmu lack, and how much he needed this dragon scar blood pendant? Xiaoyu Flower was a little speechless. She took a step forward and looked at the dragon scar blood pendant. Her heart couldn't help but tremble. The experience points needed to exchange for this dragon scar blood pendant was probably something she would have to spend a year to exchange for, and she was in a hurry. Kang Xinmu actually wanted to exchange for this thing? Moreover, to Xiaoyu Flower, the effect of this dragon scar blood pendant was too ordinary. The first effect was to increase strength coordination. This effect was too ordinary. Even dragon-grade weapons would have this effect. This kind of formation was relatively simple, but it basically didn't have much effect. The second effect was the storage space. This was useful, but a specially forged storage dragon weapon wasn't worth much. She would probably be able to exchange for it in a month. As for the last effect, the power of the dragon scar blood pendant was too harmful to the body. If she used this method to absorb the energy of the dragon scar often, it would be no different from self-harm. However, if she didn't use it often, this kind of power would be too weak. As for the power outburst in battle, it was also under the premise of harming the body's meridians. Moreover, using it in battle would cause more damage to the body than using it for cultivation. Only such a lunatic would use this thing, right? Xiaoyu Flower couldn't help but shake her head. She recalled the time when she fought with Kang Xinmu. Kang Xinmu's recovery ability was indeed very strong. Moreover, Ran, who was with Kang Xinmu, also had a very strong recovery ability. It seemed that using the dragon scar blood pendant for cultivation and battle was still acceptable. However, the increase in cultivation speed was still uncertain. If Kang Xinmu took it and only doubled the speed of absorbing the energy of the dragon scar blood pendant, the effect would be too poor. Compared to the damage she would suffer, the gain simply didn't make up for the loss. How many experience points do you still need? When she asked this question, Xiaoyu Flower was still a little puzzled. After all, Kang Xinmu had just joined Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy not long ago, and he already wanted to exchange for a heaven-level dragon weapon. Could it be that this guy was short of more than half of the experience points? If that was the case, Xiaoyu Flower really had to consider whether Kang Xinmu was reliable or not. Even if she returned it in double, what if Kang Xinmu died outside? Chapter 43:18. Hearing Xiao Yuhua's question, Kang Xinmu was a little surprised. The other party's question clearly showed that he was tempted. If Xiao Yuhua could afford it, she might lend it to him. After all, the double return of experience points was very attractive to anyone. I'm not far from it. Kang Xinmu briefly explained his current situation. My luck in the Beast Abyss this time was pretty good. I've already obtained most of the experience points I need to exchange for the Dragon Stain Blood Pendant. I'm just short of a little. If he spent a little more time to obtain some experience points, he would be able to exchange for the Dragon Stain Blood Pendant. But Xiao Yuhua also knew the importance of experience points to students. 1 or 2 months earlier and 1 or 2 months later were completely different concepts. So she could understand Kang Xinmu's eagerness to exchange for the Dragon Stain Blood Pendant. But hearing that Kang Xinmu had actually made a trip to the Beast Abyss in such a short time and had gained quite a lot, she couldn't remain calm. Wasn't this kid's luck a little too good? One had to know that the competition in the Beast Abyss was fierce. It wasn't that Xiao Yuhua hadn't been there before, but the 2 times she had been there, she had basically returned empty-handed. The only time she had gained something was when she had entered with the students from the Fekta region. She had been in charge of scouting for them and had been given many things. But even that time, her gains were far from what Kang Xinmu had gained this time. In fact, it was only a fraction of what Kang Xinmu had gained this time. This made Xiao Yuhua feel a little responsible. Kang Xinmu, this kid's luck was a little too good. Now that he was just short of this little bit of experience points to exchange for the Dragon Stain Blood Pendant, Kang Xinmu would naturally be very eager to borrow some experience points. How do you plan on using the Dragon Stain Blood Pendant? Xiao Yuhua thought for a while, then asked softly, if I were to return it double, it would probably take at least half a year for you to return it if you don't go to the Beast Abyss. I can't wait that long. She also needed experience points. If Kang Xinmu could promise her something tangible in return, then lending Kang Xinmu these experience points would not be a problem. Right now, she wanted to exchange for some heavenly treasures and absorb them to increase her strength. However, she was not very close to the breakthrough. She still needed a long period of consolidation. Therefore, if Kang Xinmu could pay it off within a month, she would consider it. Give me 2 months. Within 2 months, I'll pay you back double the experience points. Kang Xinmu also thought for a moment and said, if I don't pay it back in 2 months, then I'll pay you back 3 times in the next 2 months. So on and so forth. If I drag it out for too long, I'll definitely give you more points. I guarantee that you won't lose out. Hearing Kang Xinmu's words, Xiao Yuhua and Mentor Dragon Emperor were a little surprised. It was not easy to get so many experience points in 2 months. Moreover, this Kang Xinmu actually planned to return it 3 times. This was not a joke. With Mentor Dragon Emperor as a witness, it was impossible for Kang Xinmu to go back on his word. If he couldn't pay it back, then wouldn't the compound interest be too unbearable? However, Kang Xinmu was full of confidence and did not worry too much about this. The reason why he said he would pay it back in 2 months instead of 1 was already quite conservative. Kang Xinmu was confident that if he could get the Dragon Scar Blood Pendant, he would definitely be able to get a considerable improvement in the remaining time of this month. When he entered the Beast Abyss next month, no matter how bad his luck was, he would definitely be able to get some cultivation resources. Even if he was directly kicked out due to bad luck, he could still wait until the next month to try his luck. He couldn't possibly be unlucky for 2 months in a row, right? Kang Xinmu's harvest this time was bountiful. Although it was mainly due to good luck, it was also inseparable from his own strength. Moreover, the next time he entered, his strength would increase greatly. He needed to borrow experience points, but the amount was not too much. As long as his luck was not too bad, paying it back in 2 months was not too big of a problem. Alright, then we'll do as you say. Xiao Yuhua thought about it carefully. No matter how she thought about it, she did not lose out. Even if Kong Xinmu really could not pay it back in 2 months, she did not intend to let Kong Xinmu return 3 times the amount. Paying it back twice was enough. She might as well let Kong Xinmu owe her a favor. In her opinion, it might be of greater use in the future. Since the laughing language flower had agreed, then the rest of the matter was logical. Experience points could be exchanged and gifted, so as long as Xiao Yuhua was willing, she could totally lend Kong Xinmu a certain amount of experience points. Kong Xinmu did not want much, just enough to exchange for the Dragon Scar Blood Pendant. He directly exchanged the Dragon Scar Blood Pendant into his own hands. Got it. Kong Xinmu held the Dragon Scar Blood Pendant in his hand, feeling the surging power within it. It looked very calm, but the carved formation within it was filled with a rich power of the Dragon Scar Blood. Of course, he would not test the effect of the Dragon Scar Blood Pendant at the exchange office. After thanking Xiao Yuhua, he took the Dragon Scar Blood Pendant and left the exchange office. Do you really think he can pay back these experience points in 2 months? Teacher Dragon Emperor smiled gently and asked Xiao Yuhua, to obtain so many experience points in 2 months, he has to at least have the strength of the Fecta zone. It also depends on a bit of luck. Of course, if he has the strength of the Jade zone, it'll be a piece of cake. He won't be able to reach the Jade district so quickly. Xiao Yuhua shook her head and looked at the back of Kong Xinmu as he left. However, after he obtains the Dragon Scar Blood Pendant, it is very likely that he will be able to enter the Fecta district in one go. It will depend on his talent and to what extent he can bring out the effect of the Dragon Scar Blood Pendant. Yes. Instructor Dragon Emperor nodded and did not continue to say anything. Also looking at the back of Kong Xinmu as he left, Instructor Dragon Emperor felt a little complicated. Kong Xinmu was so lucky. If this continued, Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy might really rely on him to make a name for itself in the future. The competition between the 4 Dragon Martial Academies was getting more and more intense. In the past exchanges between the 4 academies, Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy was always ranked first and second from the bottom. The top 2 places were almost always won by the 2 Dragon Martial Academies of the North Wilderness and South Arch. If Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy could produce a top genius out of nowhere, Instructor Dragon Emperor also hoped to see him. After all, he was also a member of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. Moreover, Instructor Dragon Emperor was also very likely to grow into a super divine dragon in the future. Geniuses like Xiao Yuhua and Kong Xinmu would basically leave the academy with them in the future and head out of the Dragon Martial continent. Chapter 43-19. Kong Xinmu immediately returned to his palace after obtaining the Dragon Mark Blood Pendant. He planned to test the effect of the Dragon Mark Blood Pendant. As for the increased absorption speed of the Dragon Mark's energy after merging with the Dragon Mark Blood, Kong Xinmu did not need to use this function. In fact, it was just for show. It was just for show. In fact, he could already absorb the Dragon Mark's energy dozens of times faster than ordinary people by relying on his devouring power. To be safe, he planned to absorb the Dragon Mark's energy at 10 times the normal speed. If it was too fast, it would easily attract attention. If it was 10 times the normal speed, at least it would not affect others. Even if others were jealous, they would not do anything to him. Kong Xinmu did not think that people like Xiaofan were everywhere. Moreover, he was now cultivating in the Alcade district. The strength of the students in the Alcade district was not much different from that of Donghuang Yangwu College. Even if such students were jealous of Kong Xinmu, what could they do? In the entire Emperor Shi Dragon Martial Academy, there were not many people who needed to be wary of Kong Xinmu. In any case, he just had to be careful in the Beast Abyss. Even if he met other students from the Emperor Shi Dragon Martial Academy, he could not let his guard down. He had to be on his guard. Strength coordination. Kang Xinmu wore the Dragon Mark blood pendant in front of his chest. He felt a kind of power guiding him to familiarize himself with his body, allowing him to control the power in his body more perfectly. This kind of influence was subtle. Kang Xinmu felt that if he could control 90% of his power before, he would be able to completely control the remaining 10% in a month with the Dragon Mark blood pendant. Under normal circumstances, if Kang Xinmu improved too quickly, there would always be some power that he could not control, causing his actual combat power to be weaker. Most importantly, if a dragon martial artist could completely control his own power, the effects of various dragon martial techniques would also be improved. Although it would not be to the extent of a sudden increase, the effect of the increase in combat power was obvious. With the Dragon Mark blood pendant, my strength is equivalent to increasing by 10%. Of course, this needs time to settle. Kang Xinmu thought to himself. He was quite satisfied. Kang Xinmu felt that the dragon-marked blood pendant's effect was very suitable for him, and now it seemed that it was indeed so. As long as he wore the dragon scar blood pendant, no matter when he was resting or cultivating, there would always be a kind of energy that would nourish his entire body, allowing him to grasp his own strength faster. This was the effect of the mysterious formation carved in the dragon-stained blood pendant. It allowed Kang Xinmu's spirit and body to be more compatible, and finally achieved the effect of completely controlling his own power. For now, I won't merge the power of the dragon scar blood into my body. There's no need. After all, it will still harm my body. Unless I have no other choice, there's no need to try it. Kang Xinmu sensed it slightly. This power was indeed able to stimulate the potential in his body, causing the divine dragon blood essence to boil. Consuming several times the amount of blood essence, allowing one to erupt with twice the amount of power, this effect was very useful when one was putting their life on the line. After familiarizing himself with the dragon-stained blood pendant storage space, Kang Xinmu decided to try devouring the dragon mark's energy at 10 times the speed. Originally, he could devour at 3 times the speed, but it was more secretive, and he couldn't devour frequently. Otherwise, it would attract attention and bring trouble. However, now that he had the dragon-stained blood pendant as a shield, he didn't need to be afraid at all. That night, he was in his palace, and his devouring power erupted. With a speed 10 times faster than ordinary cultivators, he began to absorb the surrounding dragon mark's energy. It surrounded the entire palace that Kang Xinmu resided in. The periphery even formed a vortex of dragon mark's energy. It was incomparably dense, and it was continuously absorbed by Kang Xinmu, who was in the palace. Although it was night time, many dragon martial artists in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy didn't need to rest for too long. They only rested once every few days. Many people were cultivating in seclusion. The students in the Alcade zone who were closer to Kang Xinmu sensed the commotion and flew out of the palace to take a look. In the end, they discovered that the palace where Kang Xinmu resided was surrounded by the dragon mark's energy. It was incomparably pure, and it was being rapidly absorbed. This made them extremely astonished. What's going on? They spread the news to each other, and very quickly, the news spread throughout the entire Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy. All the students who stayed in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy to cultivate basically knew about this. Just as everyone was bewildered, Instructor Dragon Emperor, who was in charge of the exchange of experience points, came out to explain the situation, calming down the commotion in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy. At the same time, Xiao Yuhua also told her close friends that Kang Xinmu had obtained the dragon-stained blood pendant. Therefore, he had fused with the power of the dragon mark's blood and was able to devour the dragon mark's energy at a faster speed. It was only then that the students understood what was going on. However, even the gentle instructor Dragon Emperor and Xiao Yuhua didn't expect that after Kong Shinmu fused with the power of the Dragon Stain Blood Pendant, the speed at which he absorbed the Dragon Mark's energy had increased to 10 times that of an ordinary person. Wasn't this absorption speed a little too heaven-defying? If he could continue cultivating like this, he would probably only need a few months to advance from the Dragon King to the Dragon Emperor. Of course, the prerequisite was that Kong Shinmu's talent was high enough and he wouldn't encounter a bottleneck. Just from the amount of Dragon Mark's energy, Kong Shinmu's absorption for 1 day was equivalent to the absorption of others for 10 days. As for Kong Shinmu, he cultivated alone in the palace and was more or less aware of the situation in the outside world. However, he didn't leave his palace. He had been cultivating in the palace for half a month before he walked out of the palace for the first time. At this time, Kong Shinmu's Dragon King level Divine Dragon Blood had finally reached the 6th level of the Dragon King level. To Kong Shinmu, breaking through 3 levels of the Divine Dragon Blood along the way was not difficult at all. He didn't encounter any bottlenecks during this period. If it were other Dragon Warrior students, they might have encountered bottlenecks at the Dragon King level. Then, it would be even more difficult for them to break through. In fact, most Dragon Warriors would encounter bottlenecks at the Dragon King level. They would encounter bottlenecks sooner or later. Because of this, many students of the Dragon Martial Academy, even if they were talented and were already at the top of the Dragon Martial continent, would not be able to break through to the Dragon Emperor level in a short period of time. Some needed 10 years, some needed 20 years. It was hard to say. Chapter 43-20. Kong Shinmu had not encountered any bottlenecks so far, which was considered very smooth. He had always been curious about his breakthrough speed, which was much faster than others. Apart from the fact that his devouring power could completely absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth treasures, another reason was that he had not encountered any bottlenecks. This was something that no one could imagine. But Kong Shinmu would not casually reveal this point. Although the Dragon King's Blood Essence stage, a small increase in grade did not have a particularly big impact on his combat power, but this time Kong Shinmu broke through from level 3 to level 6, the change was still very big. Basically, after transforming into a divine dragon, his talent became even stronger. His overall strength was at least 30% stronger than half a month ago. Now, if he were to face Xiao Yuhua again, Kong Shinmu was confident that he could easily withstand her attacks and find an opportunity to counterattack. However, in next year's school competition, it was impossible for Kong Shinmu to target Xiao Yuhua. After all, she had lent him a lot of experience points. If he were to challenge her at that time, it would be too heartless. Moreover, Kong Shinmu's goal in the next school competition was definitely to go to the Migres district, and not the Yuheng district where Xiao Yuhua was now. His improvement speed was far beyond that of ordinary people. The grade of Divine Dragon Blood Essence has reached Dragon King level 6. It seems that the Dragon Mark's energy that I need to devour for further advancement has become a lot more. I'll stop for now. Kong Shinmu had a complete plan for his cultivation. During this period of time, because of the Dragon Mark Blood Pendant, his control of his own strength had reached a higher level, which increased his overall strength by at least 50%. Under the situation where his strength was consolidated fast enough, Kong Shinmu did not have to worry about any negative effects from a breakthrough too fast. This heaven and earth treasure can be devoured now. Only then did Kong Shinmu take out the heaven and earth treasure from the beast abyss, and prepared to devour it. Heaven and earth treasures contained incomparably rich heaven and earth spiritual energy. Absorbing heaven and earth treasures was the fastest way to raise one's cultivation level. Kong Shinmu had previously used his experience points to exchange for heaven and earth treasures. Now that he had obtained this seaweed, he naturally wouldn't use it to exchange for experience points. This was what he relied on to make a breakthrough in his cultivation. For example, Kong Shinmu only needed to completely devour 3 of these heavenly treasures to be able to break through from the 5th level of the Nirvana Tribulation Realm to the 6th level of the Nirvana Tribulation Realm. However, this was because his devouring power could completely absorb the heaven and earth spiritual chi without any dissipation or wastage. This efficiency was 5 to 10 times better than ordinary dragon martial artists. He only needed 3 stalks to break through. For ordinary dragon martial artists, no matter how talented they were, they would need at least 10 stalks to break through. This was the difference. No matter how talented one was, absorbing the heaven and earth spiritual energy from the heaven and earth treasures would cause some of it to dissipate and be wasted. Therefore, some dragon weapon formations would have cultivation arrays attached to them to increase the efficiency of dragon martial artists absorbing heaven and earth treasures. This kind of dragon weapon cultivation was very effective for ordinary dragon martial artists, but for Kong Shinmu, it was of no use at all. During this period of time, Kong Shinmu did not see Ran Ran. This girl seemed to have gone out to complete her training mission. It was impossible for her to always follow behind Kong Shinmu. Furthermore, she had a very strong personality. She did not wish to be a burden to Kong Shinmu. If she wanted to be able to help Kong Shinmu, the only way was to work hard and strive to become stronger. Although Kong Shinmu did not see the little girl, he occasionally saw Xiao Yuhua. Xiao Yuhua said that she had seen Ran Ran on the training stone tablet a few times. This girl completed her training mission very quickly. However, compared to the speed at which Kong Shinmu earned experience points in the Beast Abyss, it was still far behind. Devour. After devouring this heaven and earth treasure that was obtained from the bottom of the Beast Abyss and guarded by the Demon King Mirage Snake, Kong Shinmu's cultivation realm was getting closer and closer to the 6th level of the Nirvana Tribulation Realm. He was only 1 step away from the final stage. He did not even need to consolidate his cultivation realm. When his cultivation realm was close to the 6th level, his combat strength would naturally increase by at least 20%. To break through, I still have to return to the Yen Dragon Emperor dynasty. It's a pity that the Emperor Shi formation of the Emperor Shi Dragon Martial Academy will definitely cost a lot of experience points to teleport to a place as far away as the Yen Dragon Emperor dynasty. I don't have many experience points now. Before I go back to break through, I have to enter the Beast Abyss again. Less than a month had passed since Kong Shinmu's last trip to the Beast Abyss. Therefore, he prepared to go to the training stone tablet to take a look and complete some training missions to earn some experience points. One had to know that to go to the Beast Abyss, one would need to spend a lot of experience points. Currently, Kong Shinmu was penniless. When he arrived near the training stone tablet, he saw a few students discussing something near the training stone tablet. They were 4 young girls with graceful figures and graceful appearances. They were laughing and chatting happily, and they were extremely eye-catching, causing Jiang Shenwu to feel a little embarrassed to size them up. Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy was mainly made up of young female dragon martial artists. Hence, encountering 4 young girls at the same time was not a rare occurrence. What was strange was that these 4 young girls had extremely high cultivation realms. They all had the blood essence of a divine dragon at the level of the Dragon Emperor. Moreover, they were at least in the Rebirth Tribulation realm. When Kong Shinmu came over, they only glanced at him and then ignored him. To them, Kong Shinmu's level was still too low. They are students from the Fekta district. As they got closer, Kong Shinmu's heart skipped a beat. The strength of the 4 of them was absolutely terrifying. With Kong Shinmu's current abilities, he would definitely die a horrible death if he fought any one of them. Kong Shinmu was not interested in what the 4 of them were talking about. He only wanted to see if there were any training missions on the training stone tablet that were suitable for him. However, just because he did not want to hear it did not mean that he could not hear it. These 4 Dragon Emperor students from the Fekta district seemed to be talking about something about the Beast Abyss. If one did not know about the Beast Abyss, one would not be able to hear it. However, Kang Xinmu had been to the Beast Abyss before, so he naturally knew that they were talking about it. I didn't expect that the desolate North and South the Archdragon Martial Academies would actually fight in the Beast Abyss. It's strange. Who won the competition for the Demon Emperor Soaring Snake in the end? They said that it was snatched by the Boulder Destiny Dragon from the South the Archdragon Martial Academy, but that guy refused to admit it. The desolate North students did not believe it. It's best if they fight each other. It's best if they fight when they see each other in the Beast Abyss. It'll be best if we can take advantage of it. The four young girls chatted and giggled. Kang Xinmu felt a little embarrassed as he listened. It turned out that the matter regarding the Demon Emperor Soaring Snake had already blown up a little. He was the one who interfered in this matter. Only he knew the truth. Of course, Mentor Dragon Emperor, who was in charge of the training points, should also know that this matter was done by Kang Xinmu. It should be known that one of the demon cores that Kang Xinmu handed over was the Demon Emperor Soaring Snake's demon core. At that time, Mentor Dragon Emperor was a little surprised. He did not know how Kang Xinmu was able to obtain such a demon core. However, the students from the South the Archdragon Martial Academy and the desolate North Dragon Martial Academy seemed to be in a bad mood because of this matter. The matter had blown up, and Mentor Dragon Emperor from the Emperor Shi Dragon Martial Academy naturally knew about it. However, Mentor Dragon Emperor from the Emperor Shi Dragon Martial Academy would definitely not reveal the truth of this matter. Chapter 43-21. Not long after, the four female dragon martial artists from the Fekta region left together. They were probably here to take a look at the Experience Stone Tablet to see if there were any better missions. If there weren't, they would go to the Beast Abyss together. Kang Xinmu watched them leave and didn't think much about it. Anyway, it was impossible for him to expose the matter regarding the Demon Emperor Soaring Serpent. That was enough. He had reaped all the benefits, while the Southern Emperor Dragon Martial Academy's Boulder Fate Dragon was the scapegoat. Kang Xinmu mourned for that guy symbolically for a moment in his heart before focusing his attention on the Experience Stone Tablet. On the Experience Stone Tablet, there were many missions suitable for students from the Yuheng region to complete. Kang Xinmu only wanted to earn experience points for a trip to the Beast Abyss. If there were no accidents, one mission would be enough. Of course, it was the kind that was more difficult for ordinary students, but not too much pressure for Kang Xinmu. This kind of mission was mainly to exterminate demonic beast hordes. If ordinary dragon martial artists went there, they naturally wouldn't be able to defeat the beast hordes alone. However, Kang Xinmu's devouring talent made him unafraid of this kind of training. No matter how many there were, he could finish them all off by himself. He was only afraid of existences that could crush him. If they could seriously injure or even kill him in one move, it would be very difficult for him to deal with them. Of course, the targets suitable for students from the Yuheng region would not have the ability to kill Kang Xinmu in one move. Therefore, Kang Xinmu only needed to choose the kind of missions with high enough rewards. War experience. Kang Xinmu suddenly saw a mission that piqued his interest. The main thing was that this mission had a lot of experience points as a reward. It was even equivalent to 10 times the reward for exterminating the Snow Sky Wolf demonic beast hordes. However, Kang Xinmu took a closer look and realized that the experience points were just casually marked. This mission belonged to the War Experience category, which was an independent category. About 3,000 miles away from the Dragon Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, there were two Dragon Emperor kingdoms that were currently at war. They were fighting over a relatively rich mining area. In ancient times, extremely powerful dragon warriors were buried in this mining area. The corpses of countless dragon warriors caused the ordinary stones in the mining area to carry a certain amount of dragon mark energy. Therefore, This mining area was extremely useful in raising the grade of a dragon warrior's divine dragon blood essence. In order to fight for the mining area, the two Dragon Emperor's Kingdom experts had been fighting for a long time. Now, it was an all-out war. Tens of thousands of people from the Dragon Martial Warrior Army had gathered at the edge of the mining area. One is the Frost Dragon Emperor Dynasty, and the other is the Thunderbolt Dragon Country. The training mission from Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy only allows Dragon Martial Artist students to help the Frost Dragon Emperor Dynasty. This is because that mining area originally belonged to the Frost Dragon Emperor Dynasty. This time, the Thunderbolt Dragon Country is the invader. Kang Xinmu hated invaders. After all, the Yen Dragon Emperor Dynasty had been invaded by other Dragon Emperor kingdoms because of the Dragon Sealing Abyss. If it wasn't for him, who could summon his mentor through the mark of the Dragon Martial Academy, the Yen Dragon Emperor Dynasty would have been destroyed. The Thunderbolt Dragon Country. For this mission, you will receive a reward every time you kill a Dragon King level expert from the Thunderbolt Dragon Country. You will be rewarded once for each kill. The points awarded for each kill are comparable to the points awarded for killing the Snow Sky Wolf Demon. The rewards for this training mission are too great. I'd be letting myself down if I didn't accept it. However, this training mission isn't the only one. As long as you're at the level of Yuheng District, you can accept this mission. This training mission was issued 3 days ago. In other words, the Frost Dragon Emperor Dynasty might already have students from the Emperor Shi Dragon Martial Academy helping them. In fact, Kang Xinmu was quite interested in the Dragon Warrior burial ground under the mining area. In the past, he had to absorb the essence of the Divine Dragon skeletons to increase the grade of the Divine Dragon blood essence. However, there was no need for that now. That was because if Kang Xinmu wanted to increase the grade of the Divine Dragon blood essence, he could absorb the energy of the Dragon Mark in the Dragon Martial Academy. Now, Kang Xinmu knew that the Dragon Warrior skeletons in the Divine Dragon Ancient Tomb contained the energy that could increase the grade of his blood essence. It was the energy of the Dragon Mark. In the 4 Dragon Martial Academies, the Dragon Mark energy was extremely abundant. Kang Xinmu had no idea where the Dragon Mark energy came from, but it didn't stop him from absorbing it. It was fine as long as he had it. There was no need for him to look for the Divine Dragon Ancient Tomb now. It was too troublesome. If that's the case, I'll accept this mission. Kang Xinmu thought to himself as he marked it on the experience stone tablet. After accepting this mission, he could teleport to the Frost Dragon Emperor Dynasty 3,000 miles away through the Emperor Shi formation. One could imagine how difficult this mission would be. The main reason was that his opponent was the Dragon Emperor Dynasty, which was extremely powerful. At the very least, Kang Xinmu might not be able to defeat the Dragon King generals of the Dragon Warrior Army. The key was that the generals of the Dragon Warrior Army of the Dragon Emperor Dynasty were all Reincarnation Tribulation Realm experts. Even if they were only at the Dragon King realm, they were likely to be at the 4th or 7th tier of the Reincarnation Tribulation Realm. If it was the first 3 Reincarnation Tribulation Realm Dragon King realm, Kang Xinmu might be able to kill him. However, if it was the 4th tier and above, the difference was too great. Kang Xinmu was basically no match for the other party. However, Kang Xinmu suddenly thought of something. The Nightmare Ink Beast seems to be able to poison the Dragon Warriors. After being poisoned, the Dragon Warriors and Demonic Beasts' combat strength will be weakened, and they might even be poisoned to death. Experts at the Dragon Emperor or Demon Emperor level are immune to the Nightmare Ink Beast's poison. However, existences at the Dragon King or Demon King level will not be poisoned to death, but their combat strength will be greatly weakened. This is because they need to use their own strength to suppress the outbreak of the poison. When Kang Xinmu thought of this, he felt that he might be able to make use of a wave of Nightmare Ink Beasts. If he succeeded, he would have a bountiful harvest this time. He did not hesitate for long and directly headed for the Emperor Shi formation, intending to teleport to the Frost Dragon Emperor dynasty. When he arrived at the Emperor Shi formation, he saw two figures. One of them was very familiar. It was Xiao Yuhua. The other was also a young girl. Kang Xinmu had never seen her before, but he could feel that this girl's cultivation was comparable to Xiao Yuhua's. She was definitely a student of the Yuheng district. Kang Xinmu, are you going to train? When Xiao Yuhua saw Kang Xinmu, her eyes lit up. She was now more curious about Kang Xinmu's state. She wanted to know how much he had improved after obtaining the Dragon Scar Blood Pendant. Not bad. Kang Xinmu nodded. Are you going to the Frost Dragon Emperor dynasty? If so, how about we form a team? Xiao Yuhua asked with a smile. Chapter 43-22. Kang Xinmu immediately nodded and said, "All right, let's go together." It would be difficult for him to deal with an opponent who was at the middle or high tier of the Rebirth Tribulation realm alone, even if the opponent was only the Dragon King. However, it would be easier to deal with three of them. It was worth noting that in this war experience mission, if one killed a Holy Dragon powerhouse, they would also be able to obtain experience points. However, it would only be 1/10 of the reward for killing a Dragon King powerhouse. In other words, one would only be able to match one Dragon King if they killed 10 Holy Dragons. When Xiao Yuhua invited Kang Xinmu to join them, the young lady in the white dress beside her merely glanced at Kang Xinmu and did not say anything. However, one could tell from her gaze that she did not seem to like Kang Xinmu very much. It was unknown if she did not believe in Kang Xinmu's abilities. Logically speaking, Kang Xinmu had sparred with Xiao Yuhua before. Hence, the students of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy should have some understanding of Kang Xinmu's abilities. Kang Xinmu did not think too much about it. After all, if he joined the team, he would basically play the role of a meat shield. His attacking ability was indeed not strong. Although he could rely on various means to drag out his opponent to death in a one-on-one battle, it was almost impossible to kill an opponent in a team battle. In terms of attacking ability, Xiao Yuhua was indeed much stronger than Kang Xinmu. Her move, Flowers Do Not Speak, Rivers Run Red, was much more lethal and destructive than Kang Xinmu's Void Dragon Sky Raising Break. With Kang Xinmu blocking in front, she would have plenty of room to unleash her abilities. Let's set off with just the three of us. Although our combat ability will be stronger if there are more of us, it will be easier for us to expose ourselves in battle. Xiao Yuhua thought for a moment and said, moreover, if there are too many of us, the experience points that each of us will receive will be too little. The three of us are about the same level of strength, so it's suitable for us to form a team. When the time comes, we can just split the experience points evenly among the three of us. Kang Xinmu nodded in agreement. The other girl in a white dress didn't have any objections. She just glanced at Kang Xinmu and frowned slightly. No one knew what she was thinking. After Kang Xinmu agreed, Xiao Yuhua made the decision to set off. The girl in the white dress seemed to be very obedient to Xiao Yuhua and did not refute his decision. Kang Xinmu naturally listened to Xiao Yuhua. In Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, Xiao Yuhua had much more experience than Kang Xinmu. At the very least, he would not be at a disadvantage if he followed her. The three of them stepped into the Emperor Shi formation together. With a flash of white light, the three of them disappeared. When Jiang Shenwu opened his eyes again, he saw that he had arrived in a world of ice and snow, which reminded him of the floating dragon country he had been in previously. However, he knew that this was not the floating dragon country. The Frost Dragon Emperor Dynasty. The name of the Dragon Emperor Dynasty reminded Kang Xinmu of the place where he was born, the Flaming Dragon Emperor Dynasty. There was only a difference of one word between the two. The Frost Dragon Emperor Dynasty had a large area covered in frost and snow. The overall temperature was much lower than the other Dragon Emperor dynasties. It was said that the dragon martial artists of the Frost Dragon Emperor dynasty could easily obtain the essence blood of divine dragons with ice and water attributes when they awakened. This was related to the environment. This place is in the east of the Frost Dragon Emperor dynasty. Xiao Yuhua had been to the Frost Dragon Emperor dynasty before. She looked around and made a judgment. The Thunderbolt Dragon country is connected to the east of the Frost Dragon Emperor dynasty. There is a snowy mountain here, and the competing mining area is in the snowy mountain. We don't need to move. We just need to wait for someone to come and help us. Along with Xiao Yuhua's words, the silhouettes of two divine dragons appeared not far away. Their bodies were covered in dragon armors. They were actually two Dragon King level powerhouses. Two Dragon Kings had personally come to welcome the reinforcement students from the Emperor Shi Dragon Martial Academy. It was obvious that the Frost Dragon Emperor dynasty attached great importance to the reinforcement from the Emperor Shi Dragon Martial Academy. After all, the students of the Emperor Shi Dragon Martial Academy were all elites. Although their cultivation levels were not high, their level of the Source Dragon martial technique was much stronger than the dragon martial artists of the Dragon Emperor dynasty outside. Moreover, the students of the Emperor Shi Dragon Martial Academy had top-notch combat abilities. The role they could play in a war was unimaginable. When the Frost Dragon Emperor dynasty was invaded, they immediately asked for help from the Emperor Shi Dragon Martial Academy. They were originally under the jurisdiction of the Emperor Shi Dragon Martial Academy, but the Emperor Shi Dragon Martial Academy would not openly help them. Hence, they only set up a training mission for the students to take action. With the help of the students and the Frost Dragon Emperor dynasty's strength, it was not a big problem to fight against the Thunderbolt Dragon country. Of course, unless the Thunderbolt Dragon country had other reinforcements. In that case, the Emperor Shi Dragon Martial Academy would really have to take action. This was a place only 3,000 miles away from the Emperor Shi Dragon Martial Academy. It was not like the Yan Dragon Emperor dynasty, which was tens of thousands of miles away from Donghuang Yangwu College. If the Yan Dragon Emperor dynasty was invaded, the Dragon Emperor would not have the means to report it to the people of Donghuang Yangwu College. Hence, the two were not the same. Welcome to the Frost Dragon Emperor dynasty for help. Thank you very much. The two Dragon King level fighters flew over. One of them turned into a strong general wearing metal armor and landed in front of Kong Xinmu and the others. He said respectfully, "Please follow us to our camp. We will briefly explain the situation." "Thank you." Xiao Yuhua was very polite. After saying this, she led Kong Xinmu and the girl in the white dress and followed them. Until now, Xiao Yuhua had not introduced the girl in the white dress. This made Kong Xinmu a little puzzled. He was not interested in the girl in the white dress, but since they had formed a team and were going to act together later, it would be troublesome not to know how to address her, right? Would he have to say, "Hey," when he wanted her to attack? This was too scary. Kong Xinmu shook his head and did not think too much about it. In any case, this should not be the first time Xiao Yuhua had come into contact with war experience. She should have her own arrangements, so there was no need for him to worry. The three of them followed the two Dragon King generals and flew all the way. Soon, they landed in a camp of the dragon martial practitioners at the foot of the snowy mountain. This camp was much bigger than the one Kong Xinmu had seen in the floating dragon country. There were at least 70 to 80,000 dragon martial practitioners. The floating dragon country was just a demon race that had surrounded the snowy mountain. In the dragon martial continent, no matter how strong the demon race was, it could not compare to the Dragon Emperor dynasty. But now, the Frost Dragon Emperor dynasty seemed to have turned out in full force. The scale was naturally not something that the floating dragon country had sent to destroy the wolf demons could compare to. In the camp of the dragon martial practitioners, Kong Xinmu saw many dragon martial practitioners coming and going. Every one of them had hot blood and anger on their faces. It was obvious that the dragon martial practitioners of the Frost Dragon Emperor dynasty were united against the Thunderbolt Dragon country's invasion, and they wanted to repel the invaders. Kang Xinmu had followed them all the way and knew that the two Dragon King generals were both at the peak of the 9th tier of the reincarnation rebirth realm. Kang Xinmu was really not a match for such an existence. Once the opponent used his reincarnation talent, he could directly crush him. Unless Kang Xinmu could reach the level of the Dragon Emperor dynasty, he might be able to resist the opponent's attack. But if the battle dragged on, it would be difficult for Kang Xinmu to win. Because he could not break through the opponent's defense, not even his devouring power. Chapter 43-23. Soon, Kang Xinmu learned about the current battle situation at the camp of the Dragon Warrior Army of the Frost Dragon Emperor's dynasty. The Frost Dragon Emperor's dynasty's Dragon Warrior Army was temporarily guarding the mining area. Moreover, it was the Frost Dragon Emperor's dynasty's Dragon Emperor, the Frost Dragon Emperor, who personally oversaw the mining area. The Thunderbolt Dragon country was temporarily unable to break through the Frost Dragon Emperor's personal protection. They could only send many strong and weak dragon warriors to wreak havoc in the snowy mountains around the mining area. There was no large-scale battle between the two Dragon Emperor's dynasties for the time being. However, such scattered battles brought great losses to the Frost Dragon Emperor's dynasty. Now that the students of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy had come to help, the situation was somewhat alleviated. Kang Xinmu learned that the Frost Dragon Emperor's dynasty had sent more than 10 students of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy to help fight against the Thunderbolt Dragon country. Although these students were not the top combat power, they were definitely the backbone of the army. With their addition, the Frost Dragon Emperor's dynasty's situation was much better. Kang Xinmu, Xiao Yuhua, and the girl in the white dress formed a small team and set off together. The two Dragon King's generals gave them advice: first, don't cross the border. Second, don't go to the area in the east of the snowy mountains. That area was the territory of a Snow Mountain Demon Emperor. They didn't say what race the Snow Mountain Demon Emperor was. They only said that the Demon Emperor stood aloof from worldly affairs and lived in the snowy mountains. It would only attack the dragon warriors if they were foolish enough to provoke it. Of course, Kang Xinmu wouldn't find trouble with the Demon Emperor for no reason. To him, even the Dragon Kings of the Thunderbolt Dragon country were difficult to deal with, let alone the Demon Emperor and the Dragon Emperor. Then, Xiao Yuhua brought the two of them away from the camp and flew toward the snowy mountains. Our target is the Holy Dragon. Xiao Yuhua pursed her lips and said, we can deal with a Holy Dragon martial artist even if he has cultivated to the middle or advanced stage of the Samsara Tribulation realm. But if we encounter a Dragon King, unless he's an early stage Rebirth Tribulation Dragon King, it's best not to provoke him. This was exactly what Kang Xinmu was thinking. On the other hand, the girl in the white dress frowned slightly when she heard that. She felt that it was a little too conservative, but she didn't say anything. After all, the process of coming out for this kind of war training was extremely dangerous. There was no problem with safety first. For most of the students who came to the Frost Dragon Emperor dynasty as reinforcements, their goal was basically the Holy Dragon. Furthermore, even a high-stage reincarnation tribulation realm Holy Dragon was not easy to deal with. After all, this was a battlefield. Normally, none of the dragon warriors from Qi Dragon country would attack the students of the Dragon Emperor Academy. However, in times of war, the students of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy had already made it clear that they were going to support the Frost Dragon Emperor's dynasty. Hence, the dragon warriors from the Thunder Dragon country wouldn't show any mercy to the students. This was not the first time such a situation had happened. Generally speaking, even if the students died on the battlefield, the academy wouldn't care. Otherwise, it wouldn't be of much use to the students. The three of them transformed into dragons and flew toward the snowy mountains. Soon, they flew over the first snowy mountain. It's very likely that wandering dragon warriors from the Thunder Dragon country will appear here. Xiao Yuhua looked at the snow-covered scene below and reminded him in a low voice. In order to attack the Frost Dragon Emperor dynasty, the Thunder Dragon country didn't just recruit the officials. They also recruited many dragon warriors from the common folk. These dragon warriors' biggest role was to disrupt the Frost Dragon Emperor dynasty's plans and attract the attention of the dragon warriors from the Frost Dragon Emperor dynasty. For these wandering dragon warriors, the biggest opportunity for them to come to this snowy mountain at the border was the mining area. Even if it wasn't in the middle of the mining area, it was very likely that ores with dragon mark energy could be found within a few hundred kilometers of the mining area. Beneath the thick snowy mountains were layers of ore rocks. These ore rocks had been affected by the powerful dragon warrior corpses buried deep underground. They had absorbed a lot of dragon mark energy and could be absorbed by the dragon warriors. If they were lucky, these wandering dragon warriors could directly advance from Sky Dragon to Holy Dragon. It was not impossible for them to break through from Holy Dragon to Dragon King. This mining area had provided the Frost Dragon Emperor dynasty with many Dragon King level powerhouses. Of course, the mining area might not be very rich. The key was that if the Thunder Dragon country occupied it, it would definitely greatly increase the country's strength. This kind of war would be a long one. The Thunder Dragon country had already built all kinds of dragon warrior formations on their own territory. They had made preparations before the invasion of the Frost Dragon Emperor dynasty. Therefore, it was impossible for the Frost Dragon Emperor dynasty to counterattack. They could only passively wait for the Thunder Dragon country to invade. Under these circumstances, the war would last for a very long time. At the current stage, the Thunder Dragon country was mainly weakening the overall strength of the Frost Dragon Emperor dynasty. They would wait for the critical moment to mobilize their powerhouses and kill them in one blow. Of course, the Thunder Dragon country could not call for help for this kind of thing. The other Dragon Emperor dynasty nearby did not care about this matter. This mining area was located at the border of the Thunder Dragon country and the Frost Dragon Emperor dynasty. It was useless for the other dragon countries to get involved. They did not believe that the Thunder Dragon country would give them the promised benefits if they conquered this mining area together. This was a war between the Thunder Dragon country and the Frost Dragon Emperor dynasty. Kong Shinmu followed the Laughing Flower and went deeper into the snowy mountains. He found that the surrounding temperature was getting lower, and the devouring power seemed to be getting more and more active. He was getting closer and closer to the mining area. With the senses of the devouring power, he might even be able to find some ores that contain dragon mark energy. Of course, the dragon mark energy in these ores was not dense, and it was even extremely sparse. It was useful for ordinary dragon warriors, but not for students like Kong Shinmu and the others from the Dragon Martial Academy. Absorbing dragon mark energy in the Dragon Martial Academy for a day was equivalent to searching for a month here. Only under such cultivation conditions could it be possible to cultivate Super Shenron. Even so, the number of Super Shenron produced was pitifully low. From this, it could be seen that it was extremely difficult for a dragon warrior to become a Super Shenron. Soon, Kong Shinmu sensed that there seemed to be a group of dragon warriors behind the snowy mountains on the left. However, when he flew forward and looked back, he found that the dragon warriors were from the Frost Dragon Emperor dynasty's army. They were stationed in that area to defend. This is too close to the Frost Dragon Emperor dynasty's army. I'm afraid the Thunder Dragon country's dragon warriors won't be stupid enough to come here. Kong Shinmu shook his head and thought to himself. However, just as he turned around and was about to continue flying forward, he suddenly narrowed his eyes and looked back at the group of dragon warriors stationed there. He had some experience when he annihilated the Snow Sky Wolf Demon clan. At this moment, he found some clues. Chapter 43-24 Be careful, there's movement over there. Kang Xinmu immediately warned Xiao Yuhua. Xiao Yuhua turned around and glanced at the place Kang Xinmu was pointing at. She didn't find anything strange. You mean, the place where the Frost Dragon Emperor's army is stationed? That's right. Kang Xinmu nodded. Let's go. Only then did the white-dressed girl finally speak. Her voice was clear and melodious, but it was filled with incomparable decisiveness. She actually flew towards the area immediately. Kang Xinmu looked at her in surprise. This girl's senses are very sharp. Kang Xinmu was somewhat impressed. He had relied on the ink centipede's sharp senses and his previous experience of exterminating the snow sky wolf demons to barely see that there were people under the snow. However, this girl had actually determined that something was wrong with that place with a single glance. Be it intuition or perception, it was enough to be admired. Kang Xinmu followed closely behind, transforming into his black dragon form and advancing at an explosive speed. Xiao Yuhua was at the back, supporting the two of them and paying attention to any possible surprise attacks at any time. The three of them flew down from the sky and weren't immediately discovered by the Dragon Warrior Legion below. Just as they were still a distance away from the camp, a burst of ice and snow suddenly flew out from under the snow-capped mountain, forming a storm that instantly swept over the entire camp. Kang Xinmu and company were far away, so they couldn't see what realm the dragon warriors were stationed in the camp. But when the sudden attack broke out, these dragon warriors reacted at the first moment and all of them transformed into dragons at once. However, the explosion came too quickly, and the other party had clearly planned it for a long time. They didn't give the Frost Dragon Emperor's army a chance to react at all. The ice and snow storm swept out in an instant, killing at least 4 or 5 dragon warriors. At this moment, the stationed dragon warriors had all transformed into dragons. This made Kang Xinmu feel that these dragon warriors were all true dragon-level dragon warriors. The few captains at the front all had heavenly dragon-level inheritance blood essence. Most importantly, these dragon warriors were relatively young, and their cultivation levels had not reached the Samsara realm. The one who had been hiding and attacking them was an expert with the blood essence of a divine dragon at the level of a holy dragon. Furthermore, he was already at the 3rd level of the Rebirth Tribulation realm. A sneak attack by a dragon martial artist of this level was a disaster for the dragon martial artist corps stationed here. It's a black dragon. Darkness attribute. Kang Xinmu immediately saw the appearance of the dragon warrior who launched the surprise attack. He instantly let out a dragon roar and burst forth with an incomparably terrifying speed. He quickly flew towards the camp that was ambushed. Extreme shadow flowing light. Kang Xinmu unleashed his dragon movement technique and flew over in an instant. He had to rush to the battlefield as soon as possible and save as many dragon warriors as possible. After all, his defense was relatively strong, so he could completely block in front of him. So what if he was at the 3rd level of the Rebirth Tribulation realm? When Kang Xinmu flew over with a dragon roar, the black dragon of the Rebirth Tribulation realm who had launched a sneak attack noticed Kang Xinmu and immediately let out a divine dragon roar. This roar carried a sinister aura. TSK TSK. It's actually a student of the Dragon Martial Academy. A little brat at the 5th level of the Nirvana Tribulation realm came to the battlefield to die? This fellow seemed to be a wandering dragon martial artist who had come to the battlefield to earn battle merits. In addition, he could also try to see if he could obtain ores that contained the energy of the Dragon Mark and break through to the Dragon King. Although the chances were slim, as long as he discovered something, he would be one step closer to the Dragon King. In addition, the more Frost Dragon Emperor martial artists he killed here, the more battle merits he could obtain. When he returned to the Thunderbolt Dragon Country, he could exchange them for rewards. These were all very precious things to wandering dragon martial artists. At this moment, the wandering dragon martial artist saw Kang Xinmu flying towards him, and a cruel and sinister smile appeared in his divine dragon eyes. In his opinion, this little brat at the 5th level of the Nirvana Tribulation realm was simply here to die. Could he even withstand a single blow from him? He was at the 3rd level of the Rebirth Tribulation realm, which was almost an entire realm higher than Kong Shinmu. Little brat, you're also a black divine dragon. Unfortunately, you're going to die in the hands of this old man's nightmare demon dragon today. After saying this, the wandering dragon martialist instantly burst forth with a terrifying speed. In an instant, he turned into an afterimage. Naturally, he saw Xiao Yuhua and the girl in white behind Kong Shinmu. These two girls were close to the Rebirth Tribulation realm of the Dragon King, so the wandering dragon martial artist might not be able to defeat them. However, he could totally kill Kong Shinmu first and then escape. He had experienced hundreds of battles and believed that these young students from the Dragon Martial Academy could not compare to him. In an instant, the nightmare demon dragon exploded with endless speed and turned into an afterimage. Countless pitch-black saber gleams appeared in front of Kong Shinmu in an instant. Origin Dragon Martial Technique. Kong Shinmu's pupils constricted. This wandering dragon martial artist actually cultivated an origin dragon martial technique, which exceeded Kong Shinmu's expectations. After all, origin dragon martial techniques were extremely rare. Even in the Dragon Martial Academy, it required a lot of experience points to exchange for it. Ordinary wandering dragon martial artists could not possibly possess an origin dragon martial technique. However, this nightmare demon dragon had unleashed an origin dragon martial technique. Although it was only an elementary origin dragon martial technique, its power was enough to pose a threat to Kong Shinmu. Most importantly, the other party's cultivation had reached the 3rd tier of the Rebirth Tribulation realm. The nightmare demon dragon condensed pitch-black saber gleams all over its body and turned into a cold saber array. This was the dark demon sky saber array. Endless saber gleams enveloped Kong Shinmu's divine dragon body completely and started slicing at him endlessly. This wandering dragon martial artist did not underestimate his opponent at all. At the same time he unleashed his origin dragon martial technique, he even used a dragon-grade dragon weapon. Its power was integrated into the dark demon sky saber array, increasing the power of this origin dragon martial technique by at least 30%. Die. As the nightmare demon dragon laughed sinisterly, Kong Shinmu's entire body was enveloped by the saber gleams. The wandering dragon martial artist, who had experienced hundreds of battles, would not underestimate any opponent and would strive for a one-hit kill. However, something unimaginable happened. His strongest attack had killed too many dragon warriors in the Rebirth Tribulation realm. He had also seen sky dragons before. Even sky dragons at the 7th or 8th stage of the Nirvana Tribulation realm were unable to withstand his explosive attack. However, the origin dragon martial technique instantly bombarded Kong Shinmu's black dragon body. It was as if it had cut an extremely hard boulder, and the sound of metal clashing rang out. Kong Shinmu was injured, but his injuries were not serious. Although his opponent's cultivation realm was high, his divine dragon blood essence was ultimately only a holy dragon. It was too far from a sky dragon. Chapter 43-25. Of course, if Kong Shinmu continued to stay there and let the opponent attack him, he would definitely not have a good ending. However, how could Kong Shinmu not move? His devouring power spread out from his dragon body almost instantly, devouring the pitch-black saber lights that were constantly slicing around him. On the surface of Jiang Shenwu's black dragon body, there were many bloody wounds that were so deep that bones could be seen. However, such injuries were nothing to him. As he devoured the pitch-black saber lights around him, his resistance against the opponent's dark element power was raised to an extremely high level in a short period of time. Now, even if the opponent attacked with full force, it would not be able to leave deep wounds on Kong Shinmu's dragon body. As for those wounds, Kong Shinmu secretly used the Dark Dragon Inferiority spell to quickly heal them. The Dark Dragon Inferiority spell was a high-grade origin source dragon martial technique. Although Kong Shinmu had not cultivated it to the highest level, its effects were already extremely good. The deep wounds on his dragon body were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Die. The Nightmare Sky Demon Dragon did not give up. Its body was surrounded by pitch-black saber lights, and a fierce glint appeared in its dragon eyes. It was as if killing intent was spreading out. Endless black fog spread out like a world of death, and the powerful dark element power of reincarnation exploded at this moment. This attack was even more terrifying than the Dark Demon Sky Saber array. Kong Shinmu squinted his eyes. He did not expect this wandering dragon martial artist to have so many trump cards. The endless black fog spread out as if it had brought death to the world. Once it came into contact with the black fog, the dragon martial artist's talent power, nirvana power, and reincarnation power would all be weakened to varying degrees. This was the Nightmare Sky Demon Dragon's final trump card. It planned to escape as soon as it could not kill Kong Shinmu with this attack. This was because this endless black fog could only be unleashed after it overdrafted its life force. It was not a move that could be used casually. It felt that it would be too embarrassing if it ran away as soon as it saw a student from the Dragon Martial Academy. If they ran away after killing one, they would be able to brag about it when they returned. They would only be able to kill students from the Dragon Martial Academy during a war. Unfortunately, if he wanted to kill Kong Shinmu in an instant, he would be killed in an instant. As the black mist attacked, endless corrosive power surrounded Kong Shinmu's black dragon body. Once upon a time, a powerful dragon martial artist who had inherited the blood essence of a holy dragon and was in the Samsara Tribulation realm could crush and kill Kong Shinmu with a single move. But now, Kong Shinmu did not even use his dragon martial skill and was able to withstand the opponent's attack. The martial dragon god's shield, the defensive power of this grade 2 defensive dragon martial skill was too low. Kong Shinmu was too lazy to use it. The key was that his current level of body refining dragon martial skill was too high. The effect was much better than the martial dragon god's shield. In a battle of this level, the martial dragon god's shield would not be able to withstand much of the attack, so there was no need to waste time. Under the endless black mist, the surface of Kong Shinmu's body began to corrode. This delighted the Nightmare Sky Demon Dragon. The black mist's corrosive power was extremely strong. In its opinion, Kong Shinmu was courting death by not even using his defensive dragon martial skill. The Dark Demon Sky Saber array had injured Kong Shinmu severely just now. This corrosive power was several times stronger than the Dark Demon Sky Saber array. However, the Nightmare Sky Demon Dragon quickly froze in place. It discovered that the surface of Kong Shinmu's body had only been corroded by the black mist's reincarnation power. Even the dragon scales were unaffected. This attack was ineffective against Kong Shinmu. The Nightmare Sky Devil Dragon couldn't believe its eyes. Was it too weak? The opponent was only a 5th-level Nirvana Tribulation Realm brat. Even the essence blood of a heavenly dragon couldn't be this heaven-defying, could it? This was an attack that transcended an entire realm. The Nightmare Sky Devil Dragon had a look of disbelief on its face, but it quickly regained its composure. It had been stunned by Jiang Shenwu's defensive prowess, and hadn't been able to retreat immediately after launching its attack. At this time, Xiao Yuhua and the white-dressed girl had already arrived on the battlefield. The two transformed into divine dragons and attacked the Nightmare Sky Demon Dragon from the left and right. Ask flowers but don't speak crimson rivers. Heaven-splitting ice slash. Both sides used their origin dragon martial skills. On the left, countless red lights transformed into an endless sea of flowers that engulfed the Nightmare Sky Demon Dragon. On the right, a majestic saber light that could shatter glaciers descended from the sky and sealed off the Nightmare Sky Demon Dragon's escape route. Force your way through. 9 Desolate Dark Demon Divine Shield. The Nightmare Sky Demon Dragon erupted with the power of samsara. It would die if it did not fight with all its might. It immediately fled in the direction of the heaven-splitting ice slash, intending to take this attack head-on. The power of samsara of darkness condensed into a thick and strange 9th Desolation Dark Demon Divine Shield that protected the Nightmare Sky Demon Dragon's body within. He had a lot of confidence in his defense. Although the Divine Dragon Essence blood was not of a high grade, its cultivation base was high enough. Moreover, this 9 Desolate Dark Demon Divine Shield was a top-notch 2nd grade defensive dragon martial skill. He had even integrated the power of a dragon-grade weapon into it. Logically speaking, it should not have any problems blocking a junior's attack. However, the Nightmare Sky Demon Dragon had only flown halfway when its entire body was sliced into two by the heaven-splitting ice slash. The dragon's head was still flying forward, but the dragon's tail was completely frozen in place by the cold air emitted by the heaven-splitting ice slash. When the saber light slashed down, it was as if it had shattered an ancient glacier. Even though they were fighting in the air, at this moment, the snowy ground below was directly slashed open. It was as if an earthquake had cracked open a crack in the ice. So powerful. This was the first time Kang Shinmu had seen the girl in the white dress in action, and he could not help but be shocked. The heaven-splitting ice slash was a high-grade origin source dragon martial skill. With a single slash, it sliced through the glacier and split the heavens and earth. Kang Shinmu found it hard to believe that a high-grade origin source dragon martial skill that focused on attack would have such terrifying power. It seemed like he would have to exchange for an offensive origin source dragon martial skill, and it had to be a high-grade one at that. In comparison, Kang Shinmu's Void Dragon Sky-Piercing Strike could not even be considered an origin source dragon martial skill. The difference between the two was just too great. The mystical dragon that the girl in the white dress had transformed into was snow-white in color, and looked extremely holy. There was a hint of indifference in her eyes, as if slaying the Nightmare Sky Demon Dragon was nothing to her. The two halves of the Nightmare Sky Demon Dragon's body had been sliced in half, but its head still flew forward for a while before it abruptly discovered that it had been sliced in two. It was horrified and tried to run with all its might, but it couldn't move at all. In the end, it crashed into the snowy ground with a resounding boom and lost all signs of life. Chapter 43-26. The Nightmare Demon Dragon was dead. Under the combined efforts of Kang Shinmu and the two ladies, the wandering dragon martial artist from the Thunderbolt Dragon Country, who possessed the Nightmare Demon Dragon's divine dragon blood essence, was slain in the blink of an eye on this snowy mountain. The Nightmare Demon Dragon's divine dragon body was split into two, almost frozen by the snow as it crashed to the ground. On the ground, the explosion of the ice-splitting sky slash created a long crack that was almost like a canyon, extending for hundreds of feet. Kang Shinmu landed in the form of a dragon and appeared in front of the dragon martial artists who were originally stationed here. The dragon martial artists of the Frost Dragon Emperor's Imperial Army who were stationed here could be said to have suffered heavy casualties. There was originally a small team of 24 people, but under the Nightmare Demon Dragon's sudden attack, less than half survived. Among those who survived, almost all of them were seriously injured. Do you know how to heal? Kang Shinmu returned to his human form and landed on the snowy ground. He saw that several dragon martial artists in front of him maintained their divine dragon bodies, but their divine dragon bodies had been corroded by the Nightmare Demon Dragon's power and were seriously injured. Leave it to me. The laughing flower transformed into a dragon, but it did not return to its human form. Instead, it condensed a light red sea of flowers around the body of the divine dragon. This sea of flowers emitted waves of red brilliance and covered the heavily injured dragon warriors on the ground. Kang Shinmu watched from the side and realized that the laughing flower could actually heal others. Generally, not many people would cultivate this type of dragon martial technique. However, the Emperor Shi Dragon Martial Academy seems to place great importance on this war experience. They are giving out a lot of experience points. There must be a special reason behind this. The purpose of the 4 Dragon Martial Academies is to nurture super divine dragons. What are these super divine dragons used for after they are nurtured? Could it be that there are wars everywhere outside the Dragon Martial continent? Kang Xinmu thought to himself. Kang Xinmu also had the ability to heal others, but he did not dare to expose it. After all, it was the effect of his devouring power. Most people already knew that his devouring power had a strong destructive power and recovery ability. If others knew that his devouring power could also heal others, wouldn't it be disastrous? Therefore, Kang Xinmu did not dare to expose himself. Before he set off, he had seen a note on the experience stone tablet. If he healed the injuries of the dragon warriors who were being supported during the war between the countries of the Dragon Emperor, he could also get a certain amount of experience points. Without a doubt, this was to encourage the students to practice some healing dragon martial skills. As for what exactly happened, I can't guess at all. Kang Xinmu shook his head. He was still too far away from that level. If he wanted to know more about that level, he would have to at least become a top-notch figure in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy, even if he could not break through to become a super divine dragon. Stepping into the core of the Heaven's Pivot District was probably the most basic requirement. With the help of the Laughing Flower, 9 of the 24 dragon warriors survived and regained consciousness. As they woke up one by one, they quickly understood what had happened and could not help but sigh. According to them, their team was just a lookout team. They had a mission this time, which was to head to a nearby mountain and take turns to fly into the sky to observe the battle in the distance. There were many lookout teams like this in this snowy mountain. Only by doing so could they grasp more information about each other. It should be known that in a war between 2 dragon nations, the importance of information was self-evident. If one side could not obtain accurate information, it was very likely that they would suffer a great loss. Victory or defeat was often due to the difference in information between the 2 sides. The more they knew, the higher their chances of winning. Unfortunately, more than half of the lookout team had died, and the rest were also seriously injured. They could only go back to recuperate. This time, Jiang Shenwu and the 2 girls had taken action and killed a holy dragon-level nightmare demon dragon with lightning speed. They had also saved a small portion of the lookout team, so they had contributed quite a bit. The experience points earned were not much for Kang Xinmu and the girl in white, but the Laughing Flower had earned a little more because she had healed the 9 dragon warriors. Of course, the Laughing Flower did not need to share this part of the experience points with Kang Xinmu and the others. She obtained it alone. This caused Jiang Shenwu's eyes to turn red. If it was possible, he would even want to save these dragon warriors of the army. Unfortunately, once he displayed this ability, it was very likely that things would get out of control. "Are you alright?" After leaving the battlefield, the Laughing Flower asked Kang Xinmu. I'm fine now." Kang Xinmu shook his head and said. "Your defense is really strong." The Laughing Flower could not help but say, in that situation just now, even if we were to face the Nightmare Demon Dragon, we might not be able to completely block it. Although you were injured at that time, isn't your recovery speed too fast? Look at you now, it seems like you're not injured at all. Kang Xinmu secretly smiled at her words. He had also devoured a lot of the Nightmare Demon Dragon's power. If he encountered an opponent of the dark attribute, his divine dragon body would be able to withstand even more attacks. Even if they were stronger than the Nightmare Demon Dragon, he was not afraid. Kang Xinmu realized that with the effect of the devouring power, he could definitely fight in this place for a long time. As long as he maintained devouring the other party's talent power of various attributes, he would eventually become an existence that could even contend against the Dragon Emperor. With the help of the Laughing Flower and the girl in white, Kang Xinmu felt that it would definitely not be a problem for him to deal with the Dragon King who was in the middle stage of the rebirth realm. If it was a holy dragon, needless to say, it would be completely useless. Unless it was a holy dragon who was in the upper stage of the rebirth realm, then Kang Xinmu might feel a little threatened. After all, those in the upper stage of the rebirth realm had already cultivated the rebirth power to an extremely proficient level, and they had all kinds of unimaginable abilities. Once they met, it was very easy to be defeated by the other party if they were not careful. No matter what, after killing the Nightmare Demon Dragon, the trio's confidence was greatly boosted. Of course, the girl in white seemed to have always looked down on holy dragons. From her previous performance, Kang Xinmu seemed to be eager to hunt down a Dragon King level expert. Her ice-splitting sky slash is not an ordinary technique. I'm afraid she has been cultivating it for a long time in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. As for the Laughing Flower, she is a genius who has risen recently. It seems like her words are more important. Kang Xinmu thought to himself. He took the lead, transforming into a dragon and flying deeper into the snowy mountains. This time, they flew directly above the clouds and looked into the distance in 3 different directions. This would give them a wider field of vision, and it would be easier for them to discover where the battle was taking place or where the dragon martial artists were moving. The entire snowy mountains were now the battlefield between the 2 countries of the Dragon Emperor. Therefore, there were many dragon martial artists in this snowy mountains. After flying for less than an hour, the girl in the white dress suddenly discovered something. She flew straight toward a thick cloud in front of her. There's a lookout team from the Thunderbolt Dragon country in the cloud. Chapter 43-27. The girl in the white dress had a very strong sense of perception. However, Kang Xinmu was not weak either. Just as the girl in the white dress discovered the Thunderbolt Dragon country's lookout team, Kang Xinmu also sensed the other party's aura. The other party was actually hiding in the clouds above the snowy mountain. The clouds above the snowy mountain were very thick and almost endless, like a thick layer of cotton covering the sky. It was really difficult to be discovered by others if a few dragon martial artists were hiding in the clouds. It was a pity that the girl in the white dress and Kang Xinmu's senses were very strong. No one could escape their senses unless the other party was much stronger than them. At this moment, when Kang Xinmu and the girl in the white dress discovered each other, there was nothing more to say. Kang Xinmu roughly estimated the other party's strength from their aura. Then, he quickly flew toward the other party's hiding place. Not only did he not hide himself, but he also rushed over in an unusually high-profile manner. As he approached at high speed, 6 black dragon phantoms appeared in the air around him and shot 6 pitch-black beams of light at the white cloud. The earth-shattering power immediately detonated the white cloud and blasted out the 4 dragon martial artists who were hiding in it. These 4 dragon martial artists were definitely not weak. One of them was even a powerhouse at the level of the Dragon King. This kind of team that had the confidence to look out from a high place would usually not be too weak. Otherwise, it would be easy to expose their target and be killed. If it were not for Kang Xinmu and the girl in the white dress who had strong senses, other students from Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy might not have been able to sense their presence. The 4 dragon martial artists in the lookout team were very good at hiding. When Kang Xinmu and the other 2 appeared, the 4 dragon martial artists in the lookout team naturally discovered them. However, they did not expect that they would be discovered by Kang Xinmu and the others. When Kang Xinmu rushed toward them, they finally reacted. These 3 students from Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy had actually discovered them. However, the leader of the lookout team, the Dragon King level powerhouse, sneered. This person's divine dragon blood essence was a meteor power that belonged to the starry skies. The greatest characteristics of this power were its explosive power and speed. For Kang Xinmu, he could be considered a formidable opponent. Most importantly, this squad leader had the same level of blood essence as the Dragon King, and his cultivation was at the 5th level of the rebirth realm. This was what Kang Xinmu needed to worry about. Immediately, Kang Xinmu's attack blasted the cloud away, exposing the 4 dragon warriors from the lookout team. Immediately after, the 6 pitch-black light beams bombarded a layer of meteor light screen. The squad leader let out a dragon roar and condensed a layer of starlight curtain, blocking Kang Xinmu's attack. You want to deal with us with such a weak attack? The students of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy are too arrogant. The 4 dragon martial artists immediately sneered. They were still considering whether or not to cause trouble for Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, but they did not expect the other party to take the initiative to attack them. I was still considering whether or not to let you pass. Now it seems that you are really seeking death. The Aurora Meteor Dragon, who was the squad leader, immediately laughed sinisterly, and a cruel smile appeared in his divine dragon eyes. He lifted his dragon claws, and suddenly, a burst of meteor power condensed into 3 stars, sweeping towards Kang Xinmu and the other 2 at an unimaginable speed. The 3 stars emitted a bright glow, illuminating the sky. They were as fast as meteors, and they contained unparalleled explosive power. Kang Xinmu collided head-on with them. Not only did he collide with the star flying towards him, but he also swung his tail, blocking the 2 stars that were attacking the girl in the white dress and Xiao Yuhua. It was as if he was showing off that he was tough, withstanding the attack that the 3 of them should have withstood. This scene caused the expressions of the 4 dragon warriors of the lookout team to change greatly. Was this little dragon warrior from Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy a fool? How could he block the attack for others like this? Most importantly, this guy did not even use his defensive dragon martial skill, and he just braced himself and collided head-on with them? Everyone's expression changed drastically. Even the eyes of Xiao Yuhua and the girl in the white dress, who had transformed into the divine dragon, were filled with shock. Could Kang Xinmu be in trouble? However, they soon found out that Kang Xinmu had his own plans. The squad leader of the Dragon King, who was at the 5th stage of the rebirth tribulation realm, did not take Kang Xinmu seriously at all. He casually released a dragon martial skill, and it was only a 2nd-grade dragon martial skill. Although the squad leader's basic realm was very high and he was very strong. However, the 2nd-grade dragon martial skill that he used, and the attack that condensed into 3 meteors, was really nothing to Kang Xinmu. Of course, Kang Xinmu was still under a lot of pressure to withstand 3 attacks alone. However, the attack was still far from killing him. The reason why he helped the girl in the white dress and Xiao Yuhua block the attack together was because Kang Xinmu knew what it meant to face the Dragon King, who was at the 5th stage of the rebirth tribulation realm. Taking advantage of the fact that this guy was looking down on him, he directly took more of his opponent's attack and devoured his opponent's power. The following battle would be much easier. After Kang Xinmu devoured the power of the 3 meteors, he could clearly feel that his resistance to the power of the stars had at least doubled. Perhaps this swift shadow meteor dragon, who was at the 5th stage of the rebirth tribulation realm, could unleash all its power and kill Kang Xinmu in one go. But now, he had lost this opportunity. Of course, this did not mean that Kang Xinmu was invincible. One had to know that this guy had 3 holy dragon-level powerhouses behind him. This lookout team was considered the top lookout team in the entire Thunderbolt Dragon country. If all 4 of them were killed, it would be a huge blow to Thunderbolt Dragon country's intelligence system. It was not hard to imagine that a lot of the information that Thunderbolt Dragon country had on the battlefield was provided by this lookout team. They were very powerful and had the special ability to hide. They were extremely fast and mobile. They were very efficient in detecting certain things. It could be said that they were like the eyes of Thunderbolt Dragon country. At this moment, what Kang Xinmu was thinking was, of course, to kill all of them. However, the girl in the white dress and Xiao Yuhua's expressions were a little grave. To them, it was clearly a little too much to deal with a Dragon King who was at the 5th stage of the rebirth tribulation realm. However, when they saw that Jiang Shenwu had actually withstood all the attacks from the other party alone as if nothing had happened to him, they felt slightly relieved. The other 3 Holy Dragon level powerhouses that Kang Shinmu was worried about had become the 2 girls' targets. The 2 girls were thinking of letting Kang Shinmu stall the strongest Dragon King first. After they killed the 3 Holy Dragons, they would help Kang Shinmu attack the Dragon King together. Let's hope he can hold on. Xiao Yuhua and the girl in the white dress followed almost immediately. They passed by Kang Shinmu and the Dragon King and headed straight for the 3 Holy Dragons. Chapter 43-28. Although Kang Shinmu and the 2 girls had different thoughts, their ultimate goal was the same. They wanted to wipe out the Thunderbolt Dragon Country's lookout team. 1 Dragon King and 3 Holy Dragons. The experience points they had accumulated were rather terrifying. In addition to the Nightmare Demon Dragon they had killed earlier, their gains in a few days were equivalent to 1 or 2 months' worth of experience points from before. Of course, they had to kill these 4 fellows first. Kang Shinmu did not hesitate. After devouring the 3 meteor powers, he immediately devoured the Heaven Demon's demonic pill that he had left on him. This Heaven Demon's demonic pill came from the Donghuang Dragon Martial City's trading center. He had not finished using it yet. If he devoured it now, his injuries would be completely healed, and he would be in peak condition. In such an intense battle, the recovery speed of the Dark Dragon's Art of Filth resistance could not keep up. Kang Shinmu was rather fearful of the Dragon King, who was at the 5th tier of the rebirth state. He would not give his opponent any chance. If he gave his opponent a chance, only death awaited Kang Shinmu. Immediately after, Kang Shinmu continued charging toward the Dragon King, not giving the swift meteor dragon a chance to help his team members. You're courting death. The swift meteor dragon's face darkened when he saw Kang Shinmu taking on his attack alone. He had thought that Kang Shinmu was just a mere 5th tier Nirvana rebirth state cultivator. Kang Shinmu was an entire realm lower than him, so he did not need to worry too much about him. Initially, he had wanted to kill Jiang Shenwu directly and then focus more on dealing with Xiao Yuhua and the young lady in the white dress. After all, both of their cultivation levels were higher, and they were students of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy. It was very likely that their battle prowess was very strong, and they were worthy of his attention. However, he did not expect his attack to be blocked by Kang Shinmu. How could he tolerate this? Until now, he still did not realize that Kang Shinmu could possibly be an opponent who could completely stall him. He was still thinking of using more power to kill Kang Shinmu first. Therefore, immediately after, his dragon body, which was more than 500 feet long, was covered in endless starlight. It was as if there were countless shooting stars flashing and swimming in his body, condensing into rays of resplendent light. Meteor Blade Instant Kill Sky Ray. Origin Dragon Martial Technique. This swift shadow meteor dragon directly erupted with a move of the Origin Source Dragon Martial Technique. Furthermore, this Origin Source Dragon Martial Technique had been cultivated to the peak, reaching the heaven rank level. The power of countless meteors condensed into numerous assassination blades. Their speed had practically reached the pinnacle, causing Jiang Shenwu to be unable to catch the traces of those instant-killing blades. In just an instant, they had pierced through the void and arrived in front of him. This was the terrifying power of the meteor. Its speed and explosive power were both top-notch. In addition, this Dragon King expert's cultivation realm far surpassed Kang Shinmu's, causing Kang Shinmu to be unable to react. In an instant, Kang Shinmu's entire body was pierced by the meteor blades. Endless divine dragon blood splattered, and Kang Shinmu's entire black dragon body was covered in blood. The meteor blades had slashed deep wounds all over his body. These wounds were enough to seriously injure Kong Shinmu and cause him to be on the brink of death. At this moment, Kong Shinmu finally reacted. His opponent's speed was too fast. He only saw a flash of starlight before his eyes, and pain shot through his entire body. His opponent's terrifying speed made it impossible for him to dodge his attack. This origin source dragon martial technique, Meteor Blade Instant Kill Sky Ray, seemed to have been condensed for a long time. It erupted in an instant, causing Kong Shinmu to be seriously injured. Humph, you overestimate yourself. Seeing that Kong Shinmu's black dragon body had almost turned blood red, the swift shadow meteor dragon sneered and turned to deal with the two girls. But just as he turned around, an extremely strange power suddenly condensed in the void beside him, swept over, and instantly eroded his body. This situation caused the swift shadow meteor dragon to be slightly stunned. He quickly surveyed his surroundings, but did not see anything nearby. What was this power that was corroding his body? He sensed his body, and his expression changed drastically. It's the Raven Ink Beast. There's a Raven Ink Beast hiding nearby, and it suddenly released poison at me. He quickly understood what was going on. The Raven Ink Beast was naturally good at hiding. It was normal that he had not discovered it. Even if it had launched a sneak attack on him, he would not have been able to discover its location unless he used some tricks. This was because if the Raven Ink Beast had been planning to release its poison on him for a long time, it could have condensed in a relatively distant place, and not necessarily near him. This made the Raven Ink Beast's current location even more difficult to determine. Of course, the swift shadow meteor dragon would not let go of a Raven Ink Beast that had released poison on him. So he planned to find the Raven Ink Beast and kill it. Although the Raven Ink Beast's poison would not affect him much at the Dragon King's level and would not kill him, it would still weaken his strength. More importantly, his subordinates were not the Dragon King. If they were affected by the Raven Ink Beast's poison, then they would be finished. The Raven Ink Beast must be killed. The swift shadow meteor dragon thought to himself. But at this moment, his gaze swept over the heavily injured Kong Shinmu, and he found something strange. If this kid was heavily injured and on the verge of death, shouldn't he have lost his strength by now and fallen to the bottom of the snowy mountain? But even now, Kong Shinmu's mystical dragon form was still in the sky, and there was no sign of him falling. This meant that Kong Shinmu still had the ability to fly. It could be seen that Kong Shinmu's state was still a long way from being on the verge of death. This guy, his life force is so tenacious. The swift shadow meteor dragon's expression changed slightly. He did not expect Kong Shinmu to still be alive. But, logically speaking, this black dragon's appearance had already turned into a red dragon, and even the mystical dragon's internal organs could be seen clearly. How could this kid still be alive? Seeing that the swift shadow meteor dragon had noticed him, Kong Shinmu felt a little awkward. He had almost died just now, but he had swallowed the Yao core in advance and used the dark dragon's art of defying filth. Not only had he managed to hang on to his life, but he had also recovered to his peak state in a short period of time. The wounds on his body that had been inflicted by the meteor blades had completely recovered in a short period of time. But he did not show it for now. He wanted to trick the other party and see if he could take advantage of it. He did not expect the other party to be so observant and immediately see that Kong Shinmu was in good condition. Then, the swift shadow meteor dragon's expression darkened, and the meteor light on its body shone again. This time, the swift shadow meteor dragon's strength would definitely be stronger than the last time. This was because it had used its dragon weapon, and it was the strongest heaven-grade dragon weapon. Let's see if you die this time. Chapter 43-29. The swift meteor dragon once again unleashed its strongest attack. This time, it used the power of the heaven-grade dragon weapon. Even though it had yet to merge with the heaven-grade dragon weapon, it could already unleash most of its power. The heaven-grade dragon weapon was a top-notch dragon weapon. Combined with the swift meteor dragon's powerful source dragon martial technique, it could be said to be unstoppable and unstoppable. Countless rays of starlight flashed across the sky like meteors. Then, they landed on Kang Shinmu's divine dragon body. The terrifying destructive power came crashing down. Just like last time, Kang Shinmu was still unable to dodge his opponent's attack. Even though he had used the movement dragon martial technique, extreme shadow flowing light, he was still hit head-on by the power of the meteors. This was the swift meteor dragon's strongest attack. He had never thought that he would use his strongest attack against a new student from Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy, a young man who was only at the 5th tier of the Nirvana Tribulation realm. If word of this got out, it would be a joke. Unfortunately, if he had used this move from the beginning, Kang Shinmu might have already fallen to the snow mountain below and become a dragon corpse. Now, Kang Shinmu had already devoured a lot of meteor power. He had an extremely strong resistance against any power of the star element. The attack that was supposed to be fatal to Kang Shinmu was no longer so. It could only injure Kang Shinmu severely. Moreover, most of the power of this extremely powerful attack would be devoured by Kang Shinmu. This way, Kang Shinmu's resistance against the power of the meteors would become even stronger. Next, this swift meteor dragon can forget about hurting me. Kang Shinmu was almost invincible. However, the troublesome thing was that Kang Shinmu did not have any powerful techniques to deal with the swift meteor dragon. Although his opponent could not kill him, he could not kill his opponent either. He did not even have a way to delay his opponent. After thinking for a moment, Kang Shinmu decided not to hold back anymore. He had to go all out. If the swift shadow meteor dragon decided to turn around and attack Xiao Yuhua and the white-dressed girl, he wouldn't be able to stop it. If this fellow were to attack Kang Shinmu would no longer feel any pressure. However, if they were to face the two girls, they would probably be in danger. This was also the reason why they did not plan to deal with the Dragon King in the first place. Moreover, it was the Dragon King who was at the 5th stage of the Rebirth Tribulation realm. However, since Kang Shinmu had already taken the lead and was full of confidence, they followed him. If they turned around and ran away at this time, they would be ashamed. In any case, their lives weren't in danger. If they were really in danger, they could just ask their teacher to come over. Of course, they wouldn't waste this precious opportunity. Every student could only ask for the help of a teacher 3 times. Since this matter was caused by Kang Shinmu, it would definitely be Kang Shinmu who called the teacher over to help. Therefore, to them, there was no reason not to help. At this moment, Kang Shinmu could not leave the danger to the two girls. He pondered for a moment, then turned around and roared angrily at the swift shadow meteor dragon. Boundless devouring power once again condensed into 6 black dragon silhouettes. 6 beams of pitch-black dragon breath violently attacked the swift shadow meteor dragon. The swift shadow meteor dragon was completely stunned. It was not because of the attack that Kang Shinmu had launched against it. This attack was simply too weak. The swift shadow meteor dragon could easily use a defensive dragon martial technique to block it. He didn't even need to use the origin dragon martial technique. What made it dumbfounded was that Kang Shinmu still had the strength to counterattack after taking his strongest attack. Wasn't this young man a little too strange? One had to know that this young man was an entire major realm lower than it. Yet, he could withstand 3 consecutive attacks from the swift shadow meteor dragon, and each attack was stronger than the last. The swift shadow meteor dragon did not dare to believe it, but the truth was right in front of it. It had no choice but to believe it. It looked in the direction where Kang Shinmu was, but it did not sense the presence of any powerful beings. It was obvious that this black dragon young man had not summoned his teacher. What was going on? No matter what, this kid is a little strange. I'll ignore him for now. As for those 2 girls, I can take care of them first. The swift shadow meteor dragon had seen much of the world. It immediately determined the most advantageous situation for it. After easily blocking Kang Xinmu's attack, it turned around and wanted to deal with Xiao Yuhua and the girl in the white dress first. Unfortunately, Kang Xinmu had long been prepared to hold him back. Dragon's Car Blood Pendant. Kang Xinmu had long been prepared to use this heaven-level dragon weapon. It was just that in the previous situation, there was far from a need to use this move. However, at this moment, he had no choice but to use it. Otherwise, he would probably waste a chance to summon his teacher. This opportunity was very precious. He did not want to waste it in this kind of place. As he threw the Dragon's Car Blood Pendant out, the blood-red jade pendant immediately turned into a bright blood-red color. The blood-red light instantly enveloped Kang Xinmu's black dragon body, turning him into a blood-red divine dragon. The powerful power of the Dragon's Car blood began to seep into Kang Xinmu's body, causing the countless divine dragon blood essences in his body to churn. At this moment, both of his eyes had turned red. The devouring power in his body seemed to be responding to his summons. From its originally relatively quiet state, it suddenly erupted several times. Chaos. Sky-devouring dragon. At this moment, Kang Xinmu seemed to hear a voice roaring in the depths of his mind. This was the voice of the divine dragon essence in his body. It was almost unprecedentedly violent. This was the first time he had used the power of the Dragon's Car Blood Pendant. However, to Xiao Yuhua and the lady in the white dress, this was not the first time he had used it. After all, he had caused quite a commotion at Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy. Now, everyone knew that Kang Xinmu had been using the Dragon's Car Blood Pendant Seething Blood Pendant to absorb the Dragon Mark's energy at an extremely fast speed. However, in reality, this was the first time that Kang Xinmu had used this heaven-level dragon weapon. When the devouring power in his body exploded and almost doubled, his pair of divine dragon eyes emitted a blood-red color, as if his blood was boiling. The roar seemed to carry an aura that could devour the entire heaven and earth. Devour. The endless blood-red devouring power swept towards the swift shadow meteor dragon and swallowed it almost instantly. Meteor destruction, 9 consecutive explosions. At the same time, the swift shadow meteor dragon moved as fast as it could. Its speed was already very fast. At this moment, it did not hesitate at all. From Kang Xinmu's attack, it felt threatened. Therefore, it once again used the Origin Source Dragon Martial Technique. This Dragon Martial Technique's name did not seem appropriate. It looked very fierce, but in reality, it was just a defensive Dragon Martial Technique. The meteor destruction, 9 consecutive explosions. Every time the power of the meteor exploded, it could shake the void and block a fierce attack from the opponent. Chapter 43:30. The meteor destruction's 9 consecutive explosions was a defensive Origin Source Dragon Martial Technique that lit up the entire area. The barrier formed by the 9 layers of exploding meteors completely enveloped the swift shadow meteor dragon's body. An incomparably powerful defensive power blocked Jiang Shenwu's attack. The devouring power, which was wrapped in boiling blood-red energy, surged forward like a tsunami and engulfed the swift meteor dragon. Kang Xinmu did not expect much from his attack. After all, his cultivation base was too far apart from his opponent's. However, he soon realized that he seemed to have underestimated the boiling devouring power of Nirvana. The layers of meteor defense on the surface of the swift meteor dragon's body were gradually being devoured by the devouring power. Layer by layer, they were weakened and dissipated completely. The devoured meteor defense was used by Kang Xinmu instead. He felt that he could control a part of the devouring power. What is going on? Kang Xinmu looked down at his dragon claws. Even he was a little confused by the silver meteor power. He could use the silver meteor power to perform some tricks. The simplest way was to reorganize the silver meteor power according to the way it was devoured. For example, right now, Kang Xinmu could easily use the silver meteor power to form 9 layers of defensive barriers. Although the defensive barriers were not as strong as his opponent's, it was because of the devouring power of Nirvana. After devouring the opponent's power, there was a certain amount of wear and tear. Generally speaking, the meteor destruction's 9 consecutive explosions that Kang Xinmu had cast surrounded his divine dragon body and protected it. Its defensive power was definitely beyond what he could unleash on his own. Has the devouring power transformed? Kang Xinmu frowned slightly. He could vaguely feel that the dragon-marked blood pendant had strengthened him more than just doubling his strength. Instead, it seemed that his devouring power of Nirvana had transformed. In the past, the devouring power did not have such a function. According to this situation, could it be that Kang Xinmu could use this method to copy his opponent's dragon martial skill? This is too heaven-defying. Furthermore, the copied dragon martial skill was using the opponent's power. One could imagine how desperate the opponent of Kang Xinmu would be. Although the dragon martial technique that Kang Xinmu replicated was slightly weaker than his opponent's, such a method was already unheard of by all the dragon martial practitioners in the entire dragon martial continent. Kang Xinmu's body flickered with the silver radiance of the meteor force, sweeping towards the swift shadow meteor dragon. The boundless blood-red nirvana devouring energy continued to envelop the swift shadow meteor dragon, forcing the swift shadow meteor dragon to use all its strength to defend itself. For a moment, it was unable to detect the changes in Kang Xinmu. Explode! The swift shadow meteor dragon roared angrily. Several silver meteors instantly flew out and broke through Kang Xinmu's devouring power defense. Kang Xinmu's cultivation base was a little low, after all. His opponent forcefully broke through the shackles of the nirvana devouring energy. However, when the swift shadow meteor dragon broke free and came out to take a look, it was immediately dumbfounded. What appeared in front of it was the young black dragon, shrouded in the silver radiance of the meteor force. What's going on? Isn't this my samsara meteor technique? The swift shadow meteor dragon was stunned on the spot. It had not expected Kang Xinmu to be able to use his technique. Furthermore, it was the origin dragon martial technique that he had cultivated for a very long time, the 9 consecutive meteor destruction explosions. Most importantly, the technique that Kang Xinmu had used was not the ordinary meteor force, nor was it the nirvana meteor technique. It was the genuine samsara meteor technique. At the Nirvana Tribulation realm, the meteor technique's explosive power was enhanced. At the Nirvana Tribulation realm, the speed of condensation and explosive power was further enhanced. This was the reason why the swift shadow meteor dragon's current attacks were so fast. It was fine if it was someone of the same cultivation base, but if it was someone of a lower cultivation base, almost no one could avoid its attacks and pursuit. But now, this young student from Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy was clearly only at the 5th tier of the Nirvana Tribulation realm. How could he condense the same samsara meteor technique as him? That explosive power, that flowing silver radiance, the swift shadow meteor dragon would never mistake it for someone else. At this moment, he had a feeling that the defensive barrier that enveloped Kang Xinmu was something that he had condensed himself. Is that my own power? Has it been stolen by him now? The swift shadow meteor dragon felt that something was amiss. But now, it seemed that this was the only possibility that could explain the situation that he had encountered. A deep fear of Kang Xinmu suddenly surged in his heart. Just as he was about to make a move, the blood-colored devouring power that filled the sky had already enveloped him once again. Moreover, Kang Xinmu himself had used the defensive barrier formed by the silver meteor power to directly attack the swift shadow meteor dragon. He directly used his divine dragon body to collide with the swift shadow meteor dragon. He's so fast. Kang Xinmu was instantly stunned. The swift shadow meteor technique Samsara meteor technique was indeed quite powerful. It actually allowed him to charge over in an instant. His entire black dragon body collided heavily with the swift shadow meteor dragon's body. This heavy collision caused the swift shadow meteor dragon, who did not have time to set up any defensive measures, to feel dizzy. His entire divine dragon body swayed in midair. For a full 3 breaths, the swift shadow meteor dragon's head was in a state of concussion. Kang Shinmu's physical body was too strong. In fact, when they directly collided, the swift shadow meteor dragon had already surpassed the 5th tier of the Samsara realm. Moreover, after Kang Shinmu had devoured the Samsara meteor technique from his opponent, his own speed had increased to a level that even his opponent could not keep up with. Of course, compared to his opponent, Kang Shinmu's speed was definitely slower. However, his opponent had not expected Kang Shinmu to suddenly increase his speed. Not only that, but he had also used his physical body to directly collide with him. The swift shadow meteor dragon had never seen such a combat style in the decades that it had been the captain of the patrolling dragon martialists. Therefore, it could not rely on its experience to react, and it was instantly dizzy from the collision. This scene had happened too quickly. It was so fast that even the 2 girls in the distance and the 3 divine dragon martialists of the patrolling team could not react at all. Both parties possessed the speed of the Samsara meteor technique. Once they erupted, no one would be able to keep up with their speed. Chapter 43-31. As the starlight blades slashed down, the swift meteor dragon was unable to react in time. It could only instinctively sense the danger and unleash a defensive technique. Unfortunately, the defensive technique it unleashed was not strong enough. In an instant it was sliced into pieces by the starlight blades. Following that, the starlight blades landed on the swift meteor dragon's body, riddling it with holes. Roar! The swift shadow meteor dragon let out an incomparably mournful wail. The dragon, who had just been knocked dizzy, was jolted awake by this soul-piercing pain. Its entire body began to struggle violently in midair. Kang Shinmu had devoured his Samsara meteor power, giving Kang Shinmu speed and strength that were only slightly inferior to his own. This was equivalent to Kang Shinmu using his powerful physical body to knock his opponent unconscious, then using his opponent's strength to defeat him. This was something that even Kang Shinmu had not expected. By the time everything had happened, the swift meteor dragon's body was already covered in bloody wounds from the starlight blades. Every wound was so deep that bones could be seen. The dragon's blood splattered in midair, splattering all over Kang Shinmu's body. "I'll kill you." The swift meteor dragon was in so much pain that it had lost all of its rationality. It immediately flew into a rage and unleashed its most ferocious attack on Kang Shinmu. This attack came wave after wave, and it was completely enraged. If it had been the previous Kang Shinmu, he would have been killed in an instant. This was because his opponent's explosive speed was simply too fast. This was the terrifying aspect of the Samsara meteor power. Unleashing multiple attacks in a short period of time was also the swift meteor dragon's trump card. Unfortunately, it was a little too late to use this technique. Kang Shinmu already possessed a speed that was only slightly slower than his. When he unleashed a series of attacks, Kang Shinmu reacted immediately. His entire body was surrounded by the silver flowing light of the Samsara force, and he quickly flew higher into the clouds to evade the attacks. Countless silver lights exploded like meteors exploding, filling the entire sky. The clouds within a radius of 1,000 feet were all shattered by the Samsara force of the silver meteors. They scattered into pieces and swept towards the surroundings, bringing about waves of ripples. Unfortunately, the swift shadow meteor dragon's tyrannical attack actually completely missed. Kang Shinmu flew higher into the sky at an extremely fast speed and disappeared into the clouds. As he dodged his opponent's attack, his nirvana devouring power had already penetrated deep into his opponent's divine dragon body. Devour. Kang Shinmu's nirvana devouring power began to devour crazily. This time, he hadn't devoured samsara's meteor energy, he devoured the essence of samsara. It was time to determine the victor. Kang Shinmu hadn't expected this battle to go so smoothly. Initially, he had planned to fight the swift shadow meteor dragon for a long time. In his opinion, he would definitely have to drag it out for a long time before he could kill it, and his opponent might even escape. However, he hadn't expected the sudden transformation of his nirvana devouring power to allow him to instantly control the situation and dominate the entire battlefield. His nirvana devouring power began to unleash boundless power. The swift shadow meteor dragon had already been seriously injured. Now that the nirvana devouring power had invaded its wounds, it quickly began to devour its entire body. Boundless energy of samsara was continuously devoured into Kang Shinmu's body. Logically speaking, Kang Shinmu wasn't injured. Even if he had been injured previously, he should have fully recovered by now. However, when all the energy of samsara was devoured into Kang Shinmu's body, Kang Shinmu felt as though he had been reborn. This feeling was extremely mysterious, and he had never felt it before. What's going on? Kang Shinmu was a little puzzled. He was in his prime now, and he had devoured the essence of samsara before. However, he had never felt like this before. It was as though he had been dead for a long time, and no matter how much he devoured, he wouldn't be able to revive himself from a dead state. He was like a bottomless pit, devouring the essence of his opponent's samsara. It was as though no matter how much samsara he devoured, he would never be satisfied. The swift shadow meteor dragon's roar grew louder and louder. Kang Shinmu could feel that the swift shadow meteor dragon seemed to be chasing him, and it was extremely fast. The distance between them was getting shorter and shorter, he instinctively wanted to continue running. After all, as long as he could increase the distance between them and maintain his nirvana devouring power in his opponent's body, victory would be in his grasp. However, at this moment, his mind suddenly went blank. His vision turned black, and he instantly lost consciousness. It's over. Kang Shinmu didn't know what was going on, but before he fainted, he knew that this was definitely not a good thing. To the students of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, war training was a rather important event. During war training, the students could not only obtain a large number of experience points as rewards, but most importantly, they could also obtain the opportunity to engage in life-and-death battles with many dragon martial artists. This kind of experience was not something that could be obtained most of the time. After all, the usual training missions were against demonic beasts. Fighting against demonic beasts was different from fighting against dragon martial artists in life-and-death battles. Hence, with more experience, one's combat ability would definitely become stronger. As long as the students of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy had the time, they would basically participate in such war training. Moreover, they would be gone for at least a few months. After all, the war between the countries of the Dragon Emperor would last for a long time, and it wouldn't end so quickly. Even if the students of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy joined in, it wouldn't affect the overall situation much. However, this time, 3 students from Yuheng District who had only left for a few days suddenly returned to Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. They were 2 genius female dragon martial artists and a young student who had just joined Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. His name was Kang Shinmu. Many people had heard that it was the 2 female dragon martial artists who forcefully brought Kang Shinmu back from the battlefield that day. When he returned, Kang Shinmu had even lost all signs of life. His body, which was more than 500 feet long, was almost like a dragon corpse. There was no aura at all. The beautiful dean of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy even appeared personally to treat his injuries, but it was to no avail. It was said that when he went to the Frost Dragon Emperor's dynasty in the Thunder Dragon country for war training, Kong Shinmu had single-handedly killed a Rebirth Tribulation Realm 5th-tier Dragon King powerhouse. Was this something that a student of Yuheng District could do? At the very least, it had to be the Fekta District. The Fekta District was already the core of any Dragon Martial Academy. It was ranked 3rd. Basically, those who had not reached the level of the Dragon Emperor could not enter. To the students of the Dragon Martial Academy, it was almost impossible to kill a powerhouse of the same level from the older generation on the battlefield. This was because the opponent's cultivation level was much higher than theirs. As for Jiang Shenwu, he had managed to do it. Even though he had paid the price with his life. Practically everyone was already thinking this way. Chapter 43-32. In a magnificent palace in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy. This palace was an important place in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy. It was a place for injured dragon martial artists to recuperate, especially those who were on the verge of death. A mentor, the Dragon Emperor, oversaw this place. His main purpose was to treat the injured students. Basically, all the students of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy would come to this palace to recuperate after they were severely injured. Kong Shinmu's black dragon corpse was temporarily placed in one of the back halls of this palace. On the morning of the 3rd day after Kong Shinmu was sent back, an outrageously handsome young man received 2 female students in the front hall of this palace. These 2 female students were Xiao Yuhua and the girl in the white dress, who had sent Kong Shinmu back. Xiao Yuhua, Xiao Bai, you're here again. The handsome young man had a warm smile on his face as he stretched. He glanced at the 2 girls as a form of greeting. Mentor Gongyu, is Kong Shinmu still unconscious? Xiao Yuhua seemed to be very concerned about Kong Shinmu. Her first sentence was a direct question. This handsome young man was the mentor in charge of this palace, Gongyu. He was a super strong martial artist on the same level as the Dragon Emperor. Most importantly, he had very strong healing abilities. Even if the students of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy were severely injured and on the verge of death, as long as they were still breathing, they could be saved by him. Of course, a certain amount of experience points was required for Gongyu to save them. This did not require the consent of the dying students. As long as he saved the students, he would forcefully deduct the experience points from the students. As the mentor of the Dragon Emperor, he naturally had the right to do so. Moreover, it was only right for one to be rewarded for saving someone. The beautiful dean of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy was also very supportive of this. Hearing Xiao Yuhua's question, the handsome mentor, Gongyu, shook his head. He's not awake. I think he probably won't wake up. But Liang Xiao, who was sent here yesterday, although he was on the verge of death, he has more or less recovered after my care. He's basically alive and kicking now. Sigh. Of all things to cultivate at such a young age, he chose to cultivate the 9 heavenly dragon blood explosion. This origin source dragon martial technique is simply too damaging to his body. Mentor Gongyu shook his head in pity. It seems that Liang Xiao will become a frequent visitor of mine in the future. I hope that he won't end up like Kong Shinmu and never wake up again. We didn't know he would fight so hard. Xiao Yuhua's mood was clearly a little down. Having not received any good news, her face immediately became gloomy. She recalled the scene at that time. Kong Shinmu had suddenly rushed out to fight against the 5th stage Rebirth Tribulation Eminence with the Dragon King's blood essence. They couldn't even stop him. Originally, they thought that if Kong Shinmu couldn't resist, he would definitely summon his mentor for help. He didn't expect Kong Shinmu to go all out. After fusing with the power of the dragon-marked blood pendant, for some reason, he actually temporarily possessed the power of the swift shadow meteor dragon. He suddenly erupted and killed that fellow instead. The scene was extremely cruel. It could be said that the swift shadow meteor dragon was tortured to death. No one knew what happened in the end, but the entire divine dragon body was devoured and turned into dragon bones. In the end, when only one dragon bone was left, Kang Shinmu finally couldn't hold on any longer. He fell from the clouds in the sky and landed on the snowy mountain. Xiao Yuhua and the young lady in the white dress caught him and sent him back to Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy. The Dragon King's swift shadow meteor dragon was definitely dead, but Kang Shinmu didn't seem to be able to wake up either. This was actually a lose-lose outcome. As for the remaining 3 divine dragon powerhouses, Xiao Yuhua and the others didn't make things difficult for them and directly let them go. When they saw their team leader, the Dragon King, being devoured alive and turned into white bones, they were extremely frightened. One of them was even a little delirious. If they wanted to run, Xiao Yuhua and the young lady in the white dress couldn't stop them. To them, it was more important to bring Kang Shinmu back for treatment. In the end, they didn't expect that after 3 days, Kang Shinmu still didn't show any signs of waking up. As for Liang Xiao, they naturally knew him. He was a young fellow in the Alcade district of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy. He was quite talented and might catch up to them in the future. Of course, it was impossible for him to surpass them. At most, he could only eat their dust. Why are you sighing? At this moment, the cute young lady in the white dress suddenly said, "Are you regretting that you can't get back the experience points you lent out?" Xiao Yuhua was stunned on the spot. After a long time, she blushed and said, "What nonsense are you talking about? Kang Shinmu is very talented. Our Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy is lacking geniuses like him. I just feel that it's a pity that he died just like that." At this moment, in the depths of the palace in front of them, a divine dragon's roar suddenly rang out. This sound seemed to have a soul-stirring power, as if it had the ambition to devour the heavens and the earth. As for those who were familiar with this dragon's roar, Xiao Yuhua and the young lady in the white dress, they were instantly stunned by this divine dragon's roar. Isn't that Kang Shinmu's roar? Xiao Yuhua immediately glared at Dragon Emperor's mentor, Gong Yu, with hatred. I didn't expect the mentor to lie to us 2 insignificant students. She instantly felt that she had been deceived and felt wronged. Although the young lady in the white dress didn't say anything, she glanced at Dragon Emperor's mentor, Gong Yu. Her beautiful eyes revealed the same intention. This time, it was Dragon Emperor's mentor, Gong Yu, who was stunned. Without thinking, he ran inside. I don't even know what's going on. Wasn't this brat dead to the point where he couldn't be more dead? Why did he suddenly come back to life? Kang Shinmu's divine dragon's corpse had been with him for 3 days. In these 3 days, he had spent a lot of effort on Kang Shinmu in order to save him. After all, the more serious the injury, the more experience points he could get after treating it. But in his opinion, Kang Shinmu was really hopeless. He had used all kinds of methods, but he couldn't make Kang Shinmu show any signs of waking up. But now, Kang Shinmu suddenly roared early in the morning. How could Dragon Emperor's mentor, Gong Yu, not be shocked? The moment he heard Kang Shinmu's roar, Gong Yu quickly turned around and flew towards the back hall where Kang Shinmu's black dragon's corpse was placed. He was very puzzled. Kang Shinmu had been dead for 3 days. How could he still be alive? In Gong Yu's entire life, he had great attainments in healing dragon martial artists. He had never seen such a situation before, so he was extremely interested in Jiang Shenwu. Kang Shinmu nodded and said, "I remember that I seemed to have fainted at that time. Could it be that the 2 of you summoned mentors saved me?" The moment he said that, Xiao Yuhua and the young lady in the white dress had a strange expression on their faces. The young lady in the white dress snorted softly. That Dragon King was directly sucked into his dragon bones by you. Why do we still need to call him mentor? The remaining 3 holy dragons turned around and ran. "We took the opportunity to bring you back." Huh? When Kong Shinmu heard that, he was instantly dumbfounded. That Dragon King was sucked into his dragon bones by him? Was he that strong? He had only fused with the dragon scar blood pendant. Logically speaking, it would only double the power of the divine dragon's blood essence. Yet, it could actually cause such a terrifying effect by devouring the power of nirvana? Or could it be that the black dragon's consciousness had come out to cause trouble again while he was unconscious? He hurriedly checked the situation in his body and soon realized that there was no trace of the black dragon's consciousness in his body. It was as if it had never appeared from the beginning to the end. However, he clearly remembered that there was a voice in his mind that roared the words chaos and heaven devouring. He did not know what it meant. It seems that devouring the power of nirvana contains too many secrets. If I want to dig out these secrets, the current me is completely insufficient. Kong Shinmu shook his head and did not think too much about it for the time being. In any case, the black dragon's consciousness did not appear. Now that he thought about it carefully, he guessed that the black dragon's consciousness had already died and wanted to be resurrected. Therefore, it relied on devouring the power of nirvana and borrowed his hand to devour the flesh and blood essence of others. However, if that was the case, it would not have waited until now to devour. In the past, it was not that Kong Shinmu had not devoured the flesh and blood essence of other dragon martial artists. However, such a thing had never happened before. This should be related to the transformation of the power of devouring. Kong Shinmu thought with certainty. His power of devouring had undergone a transformation when he reached the Nirvana Tribulation realm. The next transformation should have occurred when he reached the Rebirth Tribulation realm. However, the fusion with the power of the Dragon Scar blood pendant had caused his power of devouring to evolve a little earlier. Now, it possessed the characteristic of devouring the power of samsara. It could directly copy the talent of others, nirvana, and even the power of samsara. However, once he devoured the flesh and blood essence of others, it was very likely that the black dragon's consciousness hidden in his body would be awakened. The flesh and blood essence that he devoured would become nutrients for the black dragon's consciousness to resurrect. This made Kong Shinmu wary. It seemed that he could not simply devour the flesh and blood essence of others in the future. If he wanted to defeat his opponent, he could only rely on fair means or imitate his opponent's power. However, although Kong Shinmu was in a good state, he felt that his power was showing signs of being overdrawn. Although the characteristic of devouring the power of samsara seems to be very strong, it is not a power that I can control at will now. The power of the swift meteor dragon is too strong for me. Although I can temporarily control it, it is too much of a burden on my body. That should be the reason why I fainted, right? If I hadn't fainted and continued to devour, I can't imagine what would have happened. Kong Shinmu shook his head and did not think too much about it. In addition to his 5th-tier Rebirth Tribulation Realm cultivation, the experience points awarded would definitely be more than that of ordinary Dragon King experts. One had to know that a Dragon King was not a cabbage. In the Yen Dragon Emperor dynasty, there were only 100 or so Dragon Kings in the entire dynasty. Therefore, the importance of the swift shadow meteor dragon was obvious. Kong Shinmu estimated that he could obtain at least 3 months' worth of experience points this time, and maybe even more. This way, at least the experience points that Xiao Yuhua owed him could be paid back. Therefore, Kong Shinmu said directly, "How much do I owe you?" "I'll pay you back double. The experience points I obtained this time should be enough to pay you back, right?" "It's enough, there's still quite a bit left." Xiao Yuhua narrowed his eyes. "However, I don't want you to pay me back double. You only borrowed it for a few days, so I'm quite embarrassed to collect so much interest." Kong Shinmu felt that this was unacceptable. After all, he had said that he would return double the amount he borrowed this time. Unfortunately, Xiao Yuhua insisted on not accepting it, so there was no point in Kang Xinmu saying anything. After all, Kang Xinmu could somewhat understand Xiao Yuhua's current state of mind. No matter what Kang Xinmu's current cultivation realm was, he could already kill a 5th-level Rebirth Tribulation Dragon King expert. This had already far surpassed Xiao Yuhua. This time, he gave Kang Xinmu some benefits as a sign of goodwill and a good relationship with him. In Xiao Yuhua's eyes, this was definitely enough. As long as Kang Xinmu didn't die, then if she befriended him, the benefits she would gain in the future would definitely be much more than this amount of experience points. For example, if Kang Xinmu wanted to go to the Beast Abyss, he could directly call her along. If there were any gains, the gains would definitely not be small. Dragon Emperor's mentor, Gong Yu, checked Kang Xinmu's body again and found that there was nothing wrong with him. In fact, he was even at his peak condition. Only then did he finally heave a sigh of relief and was willing to let Kang Xinmu leave. Using Gong Yu's words, if Kang Xinmu were to suddenly have any side effects after leaving Gong Yu Hall, it would be a slap to Gong Yu Hall's face. Thus, Kang Xinmu was too embarrassed to leave in a hurry. After busying himself until night time, when Kang Xinmu and the two girls left Gong Yu Hall together, the sky had already gradually darkened. Let's go to the experience point exchange office. Xiao Yuhua didn't waste any time and directly brought Kang Xinmu over. She wanted to quickly clear all the experience points so that she could exchange them for the cultivation resources that she needed. Kang Xinmu nodded and flew over together with her. The setting sun shone on the horizon, and the energy of countless dragon marks enshrouded the Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy. The dragon martial artist students were traversing around the academy. It was said that Ran Ran had been working very hard recently and had always been out on training missions. Even when Kang Xinmu was injured, she was still out and didn't know about this matter. Otherwise, no matter what she was doing, she would definitely come back. No one from Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy would inform her, "Wait for me." At this moment, a somewhat familiar voice came from behind. Kang Xinmu and the other two turned around and saw the new student who sparred with Ran Ran, Liang Xiao, limping towards them. He had an expression of admiration on his face. "Kang Xinmu, you are too amazing. I heard that you killed a Dragon King who was at the 5th stage of the Rebirth Tribulation realm." Liang Xiao's abilities were about the same as Ran Ran's. At this moment, he seemed to have just recovered from his injuries and was in a hurry to leave Gong Yu Hall. "Teacher Gong Yu will let you leave and you are so injured?" Xiao Yuhua glanced at him. Both of his legs were slightly limping and both of his hands were wrapped in bandages. His injuries had probably not completely healed yet. I have almost recovered. Teacher will naturally let me leave." Liang Xiao looked confident, but there was some awkwardness in the depths of his eyes. Chapter 43-35. Seeing Liang Xiao's "I didn't sneak out, I didn't steal" expression, Kang Xinmu and the two girls' faces darkened. This guy really did sneak out. Kang Xinmu glanced at him and saw that this guy's injuries were quite serious. He didn't know what he had gone through, but it seemed that this Liang Xiao was quite desperate when he went out on a strength mission. It was said that he was provoked by Ran Ran. That last Ran Ran's battle prowess wasn't weak to begin with, and now that she was desperately completing training missions to gain experience points, Liang Xiao wasn't to be outdone. If Liang Xiao was suppressed by Ran Ran in the Academy's grand competition a year later, how much face would he lose? So this Liang Xiao was also frantically improving himself, afraid of falling behind. Seeing him work so hard, Kang Xinmu didn't expose him, and just casually replied, that Dragon King was a bit weak, and his cultivation was a bit lacking, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to kill him. That swift meteor dragon is weak? Liang Xiao looked at Kang Xinmu as if he was looking at a monster. You don't know, but before you, White Scorpion from the Migres area also encountered the swift meteor dragon, and was almost killed. It wasn't easy for him to escape death, and he spent quite a bit of experience points at Instructor Gong Yu's place to heal his injuries. Kong Shinmu, I'm telling you, you have to be more careful in the future. This White Scorpion is said to be very petty. The swift meteor dragon that caused her to suffer a great loss was actually killed by a new student like you. I have a feeling that she might come looking for trouble with you. White Scorpion. Hearing this, Kong Shinmu felt a bit strange. White Scorpion's name is Qian Bing, a student from the Migres area. Xiao Yuhua said faintly, her personality is a bit more arrogant, and she's a bit narrow-minded. She doesn't have much bearing. If someone provokes her, she can play with you until you die. In short, you have to be careful. If you meet her, it's best not to fight her head-on. She has a backer. Kong Shinmu did not know what kind of background that White Scorpion Qian Bing had. In short, if he met her, he would just have to avoid her. Since Xiao Yuhua had said so, only an idiot would fight the other party head-on. Of course, if that so-called White Scorpion went too far, Kong Shinmu wouldn't swallow his anger. Even if she couldn't win, she still had to fight. She would let her know why the flowers were so red. Soon, the four of them arrived at the palace where experience points could be exchanged and found Mentor Dragon Emperor, who was in charge of experience points. Give me a portion of Dragon Emperor Immortal Grass. Xiao Yuhua said as soon as she entered. The Dragon Emperor Immortal Herb was a treasure of heaven and earth. It contained an incomparably dense amount of heaven and earth spiritual energy. It was extremely effective for dragon martial artists to raise their cultivation realms. It required quite a lot of points to exchange, which was what the Laughing Flower had been planning to exchange for recently. In order to exchange for the Dragon Emperor Immortal Herb, she had already prepared nearly half a year's worth of experience points. After exchanging, she would be able to advance to the next level and break through to the 9th level of the Nirvana Tribulation Realm. She was originally at the 8th level of the Nirvana Tribulation Realm. If she could break through to the 9th level, her battle prowess would increase greatly. The 9th level of the Nirvana Tribulation Realm was the peak of the Nirvana Realm. It was the stage below the Rebirth Realm where one's innate talent was the strongest. Once one reached this stage, one could begin to pry into the profoundness of the Rebirth Realm. Of course, even someone at the level of the Laughing Flower couldn't be like Kong Shinmu and challenge a second Nirvana beast to condense Nirvana energy. Because to her, it was almost impossible to kill a second Nirvana beast. Only those who had reached Kong Shinmu's level could surpass so many realms of cultivation to defeat their opponents. Only then would they be able to condense even stronger Nirvana energy. So it's the Dragon Emperor Immortal Herb. Only then did Kong Shinmu know what the Laughing Flower wanted to exchange for. Soon, Instructor Dragon Emperor took out a stalk of the Dragon Emperor Immortal Herb for the Laughing Flower. Kong Shinmu sensed the spiritual qi contained in the Dragon Emperor Immortal Herb. He felt that the spiritual qi of heaven and earth contained in the Dragon Emperor Immortal Herb was much less than the water plant he had obtained from the Mirage Snake Pool. Although he didn't know what that water plant was, there was no doubt that Kong Shinmu had made a profit. He was close to the 6th level of the Nirvana Tribulation Realm now, but he had the threat of the Black Dragon's consciousness. Therefore, he couldn't casually break through to the next level. He had to wait until he returned to the sealed dragon abyss of the Yen Dragon Emperor dynasty before he could consider breaking through. After this, I have to make a trip back. Kong Shinmu sighed. The most inconvenient thing about coming to Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy was that the journey back to the Yen Dragon Emperor dynasty was too far. Due to the principle of non-interference between the 4 Dragon Martial Academies, the Emperor Shi formation of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy could only teleport Kong Shinmu to the edge of the boundary forest. He would have to walk the rest of the journey by himself. Based on Kong Shinmu's current understanding of the Dragon Martial continent. Even if he flew at his fastest speed, it would take him half a year to fly back to the Yen Dragon Emperor dynasty from the Boundary Forest. Therefore, he planned to look for demonic beasts for help. Previously, when he went to Donghuang Yangwu College for the first time, he had the help of demonic beasts. That was why he could directly teleport to the vicinity of Donghuang Dragon Martial City from the ancient spacetime formation. This time, if he had the help of demonic beasts, it would be much faster. However, the key was that the relationship between dragon martial artists and demonic beasts was basically hostile. It was too difficult to get the help of demonic beasts. Unless he had the chance to help the demonic beasts like before. Sigh, I can only think about it when the time comes. It feels like the demonic beasts don't need my help. There should be demon emperors at every gathering place of demonic beasts. Otherwise, they won't be able to control the situation. With demon emperors around, what else do they need me to do? Kang Xinmu felt that this was very troublesome. However, no matter what, he couldn't make a breakthrough outside of the Sealing Dragon Abyss. Otherwise, it would be too dangerous. Once the Black Dragon's consciousness awakened, it would be a fatal blow to him. Even if he had to spend half a year flying back, he had to do this. When he arrived at the place where he could exchange experience points, Kang Xinmu checked and realized that he still had quite a lot of experience points left. After all, not only had he killed a Dragon King in this war, but he had also killed a Nightmare Demon Dragon with the two young girls. After killing the Dragon King and returning the Laughing Flower, he still had quite a lot of experience points left. In addition to the portion that he had gotten from the Nightmare Demon Dragon, Kang Xinmu had gotten more experience points than others would need more than 3 months to get in just a few days. This was already quite efficient. The key was that this was what Kang Xinmu had left after paying off his debts. If it was the full amount, an ordinary Yuheng district student wouldn't be able to get this much in half a year. However, these experience points were still too little for Kang Xinmu. He didn't intend to use them at this time, because there was no need. It was better to save more in exchange for a high-grade origin source dragon martial technique. That was the most important way to raise Kang Xinmu's battle strength. After everything was done, Kang Xinmu bid them farewell. He wanted to go back and consolidate his gains this time.